some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Two. Check 2, hello. What's up, folks? This is like, I don't want to be hyperbolic here. I think this is one of the best sandwiches I've ever eaten in my life. I don't know. I'm not even exaggerating. As soon as I bit into that, it felt like fucking something. My whole brain just went into overload mode. It's a Cubano sandwich from the Italian little deli near where I live, and it's really, really good. Zero nuance on this platform, exactly. Yeah. It's not, well, that's what the fucking sandwich is called. I don't know what you want me to tell you. Yeah, it's an Italian's take on a Cubano. Right. That is really good. Oh my gosh. I was a little underwhelmed by the first sandwich I got from there. This one is more than made up for it, though. And to the point about China building bases on Cuba. First of all, if they're doing it, I think it's cool. They should be allowed to do it. Why can the U.S. military build bases in the Philippines and South Korea and Japan and, you know, encircling the entire globe? Why can't China build a little military base? Why they can't have one little military base right off the U.S. border? Why not? How many U.S. military bases are off their border? They should be allowed to. Anyway, I think what I would like to see eventually is China being able to like overcome the blockade and allow, and like ideally what I would love to see in the future is Cuba being on the Belt and Road Initiative, which I'm not sure is possible right now due to the blockade. That's one thing that I would like to see eventually, and I kind of feel like this gives them a lot of leverage if they're going to build this, if they are indeed building this military base, which I don't even know has been confirmed. It does give them a lot of leverage, though. You know, it's like when it comes to Taiwan, especially, they can be like, sure, we can be happy not to build our military base here on Cuba. Now just get the fuck out of Taiwan and stop getting in our hair and get out of here. And we'll go ahead and close that down. Oh, you're not willing to do that? Okay, well, if we're not willing to do things, then I guess we're going to continue. So, I don't know. I hope they do build it. I hope they do. If they do, I fully support it. I 100% support it, if that is the case. How's everyone doing? Submarine stepson poster has ruined my entire morning. He's really acting like a person that stands to inherit $1 billion. Can we say cis in here or will we get banned? Well, as Elon Musk did outline today, which is that cis is apparently a bannable slur now on Twitter, which is funny because, like, if it is a slur, I think that's, if you're a free speech absolutist, that's all the more reason you should be able to say it as much as you want. And as a cisgendered individual, I think I'm totally okay to just say it repeatedly then, if it is a slur, because that's my word. That's my word then, so I feel totally comfortable continuing to say it. Slubmarine Step Slub went to a Blink 1984 concert. Yeah. Oh, and thank you for the raid, by the way, Lodan. I hope this stream was good. You were your Mass Effect in. He's going to Blink 182 concerts, and he's responding to like porn accounts. He's so distraught over the possible inevitable death of his billionaire stepfather that he's doing like he's sliding into the DMs of like online e-girls and porn stars. I'm giving all my trans and NB comrades the cis pass. Absolutely. If you're trans or non-binary and you're watching this stream, you have my permission. You have the cis pass to say the slur. You have it now. You're allowed to. Clip it and ship it. That's really good. I've kind of avoided a lot of the submarine because now there's discourse. Now there's submarine discourse. Like I kind of thought it was just like a funny story. Like, first of all, I think being trapped in a small, tiny sarcophagus at the bottom of the ocean, I find that like kind of terrifying. But also at the same time, it's like you've paid $200,000 to go into this like death trap. Like I can't say my sympathy is really all that high for this like obviously dangerous and unsafe like little adventure you're going on here, you know. It's this like made by a billionaire who's like purposely like avoided all these safety regulations, you know, has deliberately made this thing as unsafe as possible and cut every corner possible so we can have a little business charging people to go check out the Titanic wreckage. So I can't say I do think it's horrifying. I think that's a horrible way to go. Absolutely. I can't say my sympathy is all that high. Like me, a non-billionaire, a non-wealthy person, I would go up to that thing and be like, oh, you drive this from a single like Logitech controller. I see. Oh, there's no actual like navigation on board. You're texting with the boat above you in order to navigate. You know what? I'm actually okay. You know what I mean? Like me, like not knowing anything about this. I'd be like, I think I'm good. I think I'll just look at pictures of the Titanic. I don't really feel the need to go check it out for myself personally. There's been many pictures taken of this thing. You know, you can go just check those out. Everything about this seems above board. Oh, and your Starlink is providing the network. Yeah, great. Great. I don't know. They don't even have a window on it. You can just see it from a video screen. That would actually be a very funny scam if it was all just fake. If they were just watching a video and you just dumped them into the water and just didn't move at all. Like, oh, look, there it is. There it is. Wow. And it's just like sitting there like 10 feet above the water. That'd be a good idea. So I don't know. It's like, I do think it's horrifying. It's a horrifying way to go. Just watch the screen from the boat, you know? Just simply go on YouTube and look at footage of the Titanic. Exactly. You know, it's a horrible way to go, but my sympathy's not too high. I think any reasonable person would look at that situation and be like, this is not a good idea to do. It's not a good idea. Dudes on the boat just jumping up and down to rock the song. Yeah, just go in the VR roller coaster simulator capsule at the state fair. It's like, you know? I don't know. Doesn't seem like the best idea to me. I don't know if it's worth all the endless discussion. To me, like, that was the extent that I thought about it. You think they were crushed instantly? Yeah, I guess that's probable, considering they skimped out on the, like, the actual, like, hull width needed to sustain such pressures. Oh, we're getting some choppy currents as two underpaid boat workers jump up and down on the sub floating on the surface. Oh, look, a whale. Ooh. Yeah. So I don't know. So I didn't think about it all that much beyond that. Just like, I was just kind of like, did the Jerry Seinfeld, like, that's a shame kind of thing. But then now there's been multiple days of discourse about it, and now there's the backlash as well. Now, like, oh, I see some people dancing on the watery graves of these billionaires that went in there and doing this like holier than thou thing. This is why we don't have socialism in America. This is why. Because of this kind of stuff. I don't think that's the reason why, actually. I don't think that is the reason why. I just don't think you need to have discourse on it. I don't know. I really just saw that it was going on and went, huh. And I just kind of moved on with my life. I mean, people have also talking about like the discourse about it. People have also pointed out the dozens and hundreds of refugees that are drowning in their makeshift boats, but we actually like celebrate that. Not only do we not talk about it, we have people on there being like, "This is good. It's good that this has happened." I think a CIA has a bigger role to play in not having socialism. I think, yeah, more than people being mean online about billionaires dying horribly. Yeah, maybe people get a little fatigued by the breathless round-the-clock coverage whenever something bad happens to a fucking billionaire. We aren't courting the Proud Boys. Who are the real Marxist-Leninists? Enough. I saw some hilarious back and forth about MAGA communism the other day, and is it Dr. Hassan Ali, the guy who's taken the infrared pill, who used to be part of the culture, and who's taken the infrared pill. And he was talking about how, like, obviously MAGA communism isn't tailing Trump. It's not about supporting Trump. I don't know why anyone would think that. And I saw someone who's like, you don't know why they would think MAGA communism is related to Trump and tailing Trump and trying to appeal to his supporters? You really don't see why MAGA communism. You don't see why that would be perceived as being a Trump thing. Which is astounding because he seems so fucking intelligent and well-read like a year ago. There's all different varieties of different brain worms that you can get, right? And it just completely, you see people get sucked into it. People get their brain just gets colonized in a span of weeks. And I was going to say the TERF brain worms is something different, but really it's similar because the TERF stuff is a big part of the patriotic socialist and being like socially conservative. Because other countries in the past other socialist countries were
you can count on me
somewhat socially conservative in the past, you see.
Through all this.
Ah yes, the only sub I am even slightly concerned with.
There we go, 10,000 sandwiches. Thank you for the 31 months. Resub at tier 2. Resub. This sandwich was so good. This is one of the best sandwiches I've ever eaten in my entire life. Maybe it's also just because I was really hungry. I'm a socialist. I love America. Reactionary social views. Simple as. That's how we do it. No, because like the Soviet Union or Cuba under Castro in the early revolution days had these kind of socially conservative characteristics. Or you can say like China has these like socially conservative characteristics. So we also have to be socially conservative as well. But it's like we actually don't, first of all. No, we don't. We can be socially progressive when it comes to our own society while also not lecturing other countries about these issues. You know, it's actually quite easy to do. It's actually quite easy to support LGBTQ plus rights right now in the society you live in while also not using it as this like cudgel to attack other countries around the world. And also then when you point out like, well, what about Cuba now, though? They're not now. They're like one of the most socially progressive countries, and they're just like shh. Yeah, that sounds about right, Johnny. The trucker convoy melted a lot of brains. That was the beginning for a lot of brain melting going on. His real downfall was the trucker convoy, thinking it was some sort of working class movement. Then when he started hooking up with Bridget from the probably canceled podcast, he got into the LGBT plus is a CIA psyop train. And then I just checked out because I don't need to be mutuals with that. Great. I got some rapini here.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old
I got some
Rob
rapini to go along
talk
with my
you through all
sandwich.
this.
Happy birthday, Rob.
Thank you, Squatch. Thank you. 26 months resub at tier 2 for Squatch Drew. Very much appreciated. Thank you. It's actually not my birthday today. It's still, what is it, the 21st? It's still prime birthday month period, though. It's still my birthday. It is my special day. Yes, it is. Oop, spilled some DC on my mouse pad. Oh. Okay. Okay.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Hi Rib, Abe Tony LinkedIn here. Did you see I met with President Xi and looked like the least funny clown POS chump loser? Love the stream. Check is in the mail, ha ha JK lol ha.
Freelance Communist, thank you very much. 14 months of tier 1 from Freelance Communist. Thank you for that. Abe Tony LinkedIn. It took me a while to even figure out what the hell you were talking about. Abe Tony LinkedIn, as we call him, as he's known. And I know we saw some analysis, and I would like to look more at like that Anthony Blinken Xi meeting. I think the best analysis that I saw about the Blinken and President Xi meeting came from, you might have a hard time believing this, came from this guy. I really dug into this. I think that says pretty much all that needs to be said, doesn't it? They had some guy dog whistling about anti-vax stuff. Same guy said he said he hated Abby Martin and Mike Preisner because he blamed Preisner for not doing enough against the war on terror or something completely incoherent. And all these same people now are arguing that you need to appeal to like former troops as well. And you need to be nice to all the former troops. Same people. Same people. That's pretty good too. We're getting the body language experts in here. Embarrassing for America. Oh yeah, another wow, this guy seems well read. It's a shame he's completely lost in the sauce type of guy. Many such cases. Although, that's the good thing about this stream though, and about me and all of you, is that's not happening to any of us. That's the cool thing. We've not been lost in the sauce, as you say. We have the correct analysis. We've not been swayed by any of these reactionary forces trying to pull us in these different directions. We're still totally cool and normal over here. It says right in the video, it's not a cult. It very clearly says that, yes. I'm not lost in the sauce. I am the sauce. I love being normal. Absolutely. We're all super normal. I mean, it really is crazy. It really is like a remarkable synthesis or a remarkable dialectic that we've kind of cooked up over here. This amazingly difficult thing to do where you are socially progressive and also anti-imperialist. Crazy. I know some people seem to really struggle with this. Some people seem to just really, really struggle with this. I don't know why. We've managed to hold out this crazy radical position that you can be both socially progressive and anti-imperialist at the same time. Amazing. People have a very hard time with that. That's a good DC. Just cracked open a Rain White Gummy Bear energy drink. It's the first sunny day in St. John's in about 2 weeks. That's nice. I just had one of those the other day as well. It's a good one. It's a good flavor. Nice ice cold Rain White Gummy Bear on a hot day. It's quite a hot day here as well in Montreal today. But not super hot. It's actually beautiful. What's 85 degrees so it's 25 Celsius. $77 degrees Fahrenheit. Really, this is like right in the sweet spot. It's right in the sweet spot. I'm wearing my tiny little shorts, but I'm not like overly sweaty and humid and gross. It's nice. I feel very good right now. I was fairly productive this morning. I moved a dresser. I picked up a whole bunch. I went and got my sandwich. Capitalizing off my stepdad drowning in an underwater coffin to get backstage passes for Crazy Town. It's a good reference. Crazy Town. Time to start a movement to make the world, i.e. US, to forget about Fahrenheit. I don't really understand the appeal of Fahrenheit, frankly. I really don't. And it's so confusing how it gets cold enough that it like matches. Like, how does that work? Like, it's so different, the Celsius and Fahrenheit, but then you get down further and further and further, it like gets closer and closer and closer. That makes no sense. I would simply make freezing 0 and boiling 100. You know? It's too advanced for you guys to understand. I guess so. I guess so. Yeah, and like millimeters, centimeters, meters, kilometers. You know, there's 100. There you do 100, and then there you get to the next one, and 100 of those, you get to the next one. It's like, well, you measure it by feet, and a foot is like fucking 11.5 inches, and then a mile is how. It's like, what are you doing? What is this? What is this? None of this makes sense, even though I do admit that I measure myself in feet just because I'm just used to it. I'm just used to it. All my favorite sports heroes, I'm matching up to them when height and stuff, so, or weight. If you tell someone like, oh, I'm like 160 centimeters, they're like, what? I don't know how tall that is. A foot is just the size of your foot, right? That's how you measure things. Just hold your shoe right up to it. No problem. Oh, it's very good. That was a very nice lunch, honestly. That was a really, really good sandwich. The rapini was a nice side and healthy as well. With my nice crisp, ice-cold Diet Coke. Oh, and you know what I have too? Wait till you see this, chat. Wait till you see this. Look at this. What's the famous saying from the famous film? Leave the gun. Take the... You want a bite? I don't really know how to eat this without dropping it all over the place. Oh. Thank you, Venus. Now I'm never not going to be able to think of that. Every time I see a cannoli, it reminds me of that MTV reality show where they had women compete for a date with the Italian guy. It was a spin-off from Shot at Love. They had to suck the cannoli stuff and spit it into a bucket until it reached a certain point. Do they have a lot of French bakeries in Montreal? Yeah, they do. Yeah, there's some amazing bakeries. Some of the very best pastries in the entire planet. The entire planet Earth are available right here. Hey, that's just a freaking Saturday afternoon over here. Oh. Was this early 2000? That must have been early 2000s. Yeah. That sounds like a kind of 2006 sort of an idea. That's amore. Jesus. My name is Enzo Amore, and I am a certified G and a bona fide stud. Remember that guy? Gosh, Perry's Enzo Amore, the The YouTube algorithm really picks up on that one. I had a smoked meat sandwich in Montreal once, and I was impressed by the directness of smoked meat. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. Like when people say, oh, pastrami. No, it's not pastrami. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's not pastrami. It's smoked meat. It's something different. And it's so fucking good. If I had a dime for every time the CPC interfered in Canadian elections, I'd have 0 dimes. Thank you. Thank you, Marty. Man, that Adbusters thing was pretty crazy, wasn't it? The Adbusters, remember Adbusters? They're still at it. But instead of talking about ads, they're like, President Xi is the new Hitler. That was a big moment for 21-year-old baby leftist Rob when I was ratioing Adbusters on Twitter. And they're having melting down over tankies and posting anti-tanky memes. And they went so much more than they even had to. And it's like, I believe they're based in Canada, and there was a big thing in that thread about like they're interfering in Canadian elections. That was part of their whole like, she's the next Hitler thing. Just like Adbusters called me a tanky. That's right. That's how far I've come since I started reading the Adbusters magazine in like 2006 or whenever it was, and thinking that I was really cool for looking at that. That's how far I've got Adbusters being like, oh, whatever, tanky. But they even in that thread, they're like, they're interfering in Canadian democracy. Which, as we've pointed out, is just completely wholesale invented by CSIS, by the Canadian Spy Agency, and they don't seem to have anything wrong with that. It's really amazing. Where is it? It's down here somewhere. Yeah, what the fuck? And they're like blurring out the words too. Xi's cultural genocide of Uyghur Muslims and repression of Tibetans and Mongolians should have sparked international condemnation and lessening of economic dependence on China. Instead, the U.S. grows increasingly dependent on Chinese trade, even as they bluster in rhetoric. Adbusters, who is based in a fucking settler colonialist nation. Beijing has pursued a thorough campaign of election interference in Canada, and the Canadian government is doing everything it can to keep it quiet. Yeah, we're being really quiet about it, even though it's been in our fucking headlines for weeks now. It's being kept really quiet because they're absolutely terrified of punitive retaliation. And again, that entire story completely 100% sourced to anonymous claims being made by Canadian spies in CSIS, which Adbuster just views as being like just total fact. The same with all this like Uyghur genocide stuff, you know? Never any examination from anyone that's repeating this kind of stuff, the way that where these claims are coming from. And there's no red lights, there's no red flags or warning lights that go off when like Mike Pompeo, the former boss of the CIA, is out making these claims. There's no like moment where they say like, maybe there's something more going on here that we should be interrogating or investigating. She's going to rename Canada to West Quebec. Adbusters embarrassingly unaware that AP reported the cultural genocide is all wrapped up now and everyone was sent home. Well, that's the amazing thing about people that are still talking about this. It's like if there was evidence that there was actually a genocide going on, we would have seen. It would have been like the AP has been like, yeah, we went there, and it's like, not that they're good or anything, but I guess they're not really doing much anymore. It's still really scary though. And the Washington Post and all these outlets aligned with like State Department goals and U.S. foreign policy. There's not even anything for them to be like, oh yeah, look at this that we found. Look at this. They're literally just like, yeah, it doesn't really seem to be happening anymore. And it's still not enough for like the adbusters of the world to start to maybe ask themselves some critical questions about this. Biggest problem with capitalism is all the freaking ads. Yeah, and as the TrueAnon podcast in their mentions was putting out there, like, you guys haven't even dealt with the ads. This was funny as well. This gave us a chuckle in the office. We've moved the needle. It's like, you have not moved the needle. You have not moved the needle in any way. There's significantly more ads now than there were. You've been at this for 30 fucking years now. You've not moved the needle. There's no needle moving that's been happening. Even Amnesty and Human Rights Watch are like, there's no genocide, but undesirable things are happening. Yeah. It's like, I genuinely don't understand the basis that people are still making these kinds of claims. Most of the emails we receive are phishing or phone calls. We can't even use the phone anymore. No one ever answers calls anymore because it's just been completely abandoned as a communication platform. It's just totally abandoned it. It's been totally abandoned and given over to these like big corporations and telemarketing scam companies. We've ceded critical communication infrastructure to scammers. Yeah, absolutely. We just said, okay, you can have this. You can have this, I guess. Adbusters started Occupy Wall Street. They had such a head start to actually be cool and do something. Yeah, and you see, like, especially in retrospect, how this kind of like leaderless, communal, anarcho-collective, Chaz style movement is just never gonna fucking work. Because it's not really based in a theory of revolutionary change that's ever been successful ever throughout the entire modern history of human beings. Like, I give Occupy Wall Street credit for like starting some of these conversations and to like start this process of radicalizing some people. But like, people have to move beyond that though. Like, I understand in 2011 if that was quite revolutionary feeling at the time, right? I understand that. But you need to eventually like move beyond that, and they've not moved beyond it at all. Actual phone calls are so foreign to me that I have to talk to myself to make up a call to non-family members just so used to texting and never answer a phone call because of the spam. Does anyone even have their phones on like vibrate? Like, my phone is just silent at all times. And I know that's not just me. Sometimes if I'm really expecting to hear from someone, I'll put it on vibrate, but like the vast majority of the time it's just on silent. Like, if it's nighttime and I'm sleeping and there's some kind of emergency and someone needs to reach me, it's just not going to happen. You know? It's just not going to happen. You'll have to wait till I get up. My ringtone isn't the international, the DPRK version. Anyway, I was quite happy with my reply to Adbusters, and again, I felt that's a good response from Don as well. It was a big moment for me. It was a big moment to destroy Adbusters in the marketplace of ideas, and then have them call me a tanky, post a meme calling me a tanky in the replies. That's called progress. You know? The next Hitler, yeah, that's what they're saying. Trying to get a hold of Rob through the revolution. Yeah, I'm just like fucking watching TV. Missed out. I have been watching It's Always Sunny. I've been I had taken a few, like I was into It's Always Sunny, and then I kind of stopped watching it, and I had not been paying attention to it for a few years, and I've gone back to rewatch some of the previous seasons, and it's just unbelievably funny. It's really crazy how consistently hilarious it is. I'm doing Sopranos as well. I'm watching I'm alternating between Sopranos, It's Always Sunny, and MASH. Never watched it. Wow, interesting. God, it's really like, and I've been through. I'm watching season 10. I'm watching through season 10, and I went through like 4 or 5 different episodes because I've seen like highlights. I've seen like clips of Dennis and other things from It's Always Sunny, like out of context now for like a few years. And there's this run of like 5 straight episodes where I see all these clips coming from of Dennis. And the song that the episode Charlie Work, when Charlie, that's the different one. That's the one where they do the bit where, with the alarm, the fucking, what's the gas? The carbon monoxide detector. And they go and you press it and you hear the beep, and then you see Danny DeVito just painted totally black with the clarinet just for like 3 seconds on camera. That was really great. Yeah, and just last night I watched one where they're living in the suburbs together. I was watching it last night. I think I fell asleep and I skipped ahead a bunch of episodes, and I was laughing so fucking hard at Dennis's like totally deranged meltdown. Newsflash, asshole! I've been hearing it the entire goddamn time! Why didn't you say anything? Because I hate you. He's so fucking great. That was season 11. And the one where the gang desperately tries to win an award, where Charlie is like, he plays that fucking amazing, like Randy Newman-esque song. I posted it on Twitter yesterday. Yeah, is it a hot one? Yeah, when he takes off all his clothes. Man, it's just so funny. It's unbelievably funny. Yeah, Charlie Work is incredible. It's just an incredible accomplishment. I did watch The Gang Beats Boggs just the other day as well, too. Again, it's like it's season 10. There's just this run of episodes in season 10. And it's so many shows like run out of gas by that point. And they're just still just completely, they're 10 years in and just firing on all cylinders. Like, it's really incredible. There's a place for me, there's a place I go, where the beer is cheap and the lights are low. It's Patty's Pub. I like Patty's Pub. Where are you folks watching all these old TV series? Well, I mean, you can. There's ways. There are ways, dude. There are ways. Believe me. I get it on Disney Plus, though. Ironically, Disney Plus is like the most filthiest show you can possibly watch. I'm looking forward to the episode Dennis and Mac break up, because I saw clips from that the other day, and that looks really funny. I can get you a toe, dude. I saw that lady doing an anti-Big Lebowski take as well, and I just knew. I liked how it descended into all just people doing quotes from the movie. Yeah, you can't make a show like that anymore. That's right, dude. Not with woke culture being out of control these days. So I've really been enjoying that. I've been watching a lot of that lately. It's really just unbelievably funny. And I guess like some of the earlier episodes being removed is actually proving my point unironically that you can make it, but most of the episodes are still there. Most of the episodes are still on there. You know? I'm just going to put it away. I have another cannoli, but I'm going to put it in the fridge, and I'll get a beverage, and I'll come back and we'll talk some more. Just one sec. One sec. Highly recommend The Owl House on Disney. I've not even heard of it. I've not even heard of that one. Go back over here. You watching Silo? I have not watched Silo. I'm confused. I don't know what to make of Silo because I've seen a number of people making fun of it, and I've seen a number of people saying that it's really good. So I don't know what to make of it. Should I watch it? I'm way behind on Righteous Gemstones. I watched the first season. I haven't watched the rest of it. I got a lot on my plate right now when it comes to watching stuff. I got Sopranos. I got It's Always Sunny. I got MASH. There's so much other shit that I need to watch too. Trying to make my way through it. The Bear, yeah. Love when my recreation becomes homework. I like having a big backlog of stuff because I always need to have something like playing. You know? When there's something not playing, then the thoughts start to creep in, you know? The capital T thoughts, you know? So I gotta have stuff. I gotta have lots of stuff to look at. It's good. I like having the backlog. Sean knows about the thoughts. Huh? Am I right? Even thoughts with the spaces got caught in the filter. Just got this news alert. CBC News: Russia-aligned hackers looking to disrupt Canada's energy sector. Intelligence agency warned. I was gonna ask. That was my next question. Where is this information coming from? Yes, of course. Of course. That's we see our news establishment, our media establishment is doing their job, acting as a vehicle for press releases from our intelligence agency. These damn Russian hackers keep raising the energy prices. Exactly. They're the ones we should be mad about here. How many people on here are using Rob Voice to replace their thoughts right now? That's right. And I'm happy to be in that position. I'm happy to help you. If you need me to help you, not only to talk you through things, but just to have something going on to block out the thoughts, well, I'm happy to help you with that. I did not see that story, no. I did not see that story, Diego. I must say my initial reaction is that I'm skeptical of it. My initial reaction is that it's more of an admission than an accusation, as with most of these things. When we see the way that, like, Ukrainians that have supported Russia or not supported the Ukrainian government have been treated, I think that's more likely coming from another direction. Ugh. Yeah, it could be true, and we can thank Trudeau, Freeland, Anand, and Jolie for making Canada a legitimate military target. Seriously, I mean, we're providing a non-stop flow of arms with the express purpose of attacking Russians and killing Russians. So, like, if all that's happening is our energy grid is being targeted by Russian hackers, like, we should say we're getting off lightly. You know? We're getting off lightly. We're literally just like... We're in all but actual just the Canadian individuals pulling the triggers, even though some Canadians are. We're funding and fighting a war against Russia. We're just getting these poor fucking Ukrainians to do it for us. You know? Oh yeah, and I don't doubt that, Dakadoon. Putin being the moderate one in Russia, there are definitely voices in Russia saying to attack the West directly. I don't doubt that. My internet went out for 10 minutes yesterday, so I believe the Russian hacker story. Well, that's why I've been having connection issues lately as well. As the late Daniel Ellsberg said, shooting Russians for the first time in 100 years. Back then we were shooting Bolsheviks. Every Russian knows that. How many Americans know that? Yeah. Everything that I don't like is because of Russian hackers. Oh, excuse me. Still kind of tired. I was very tired yesterday, and I tried to go to bed earlier, but then was woken up quite early this morning by my kid, so pretty fucking tired. Yeah, but it is pretty amazing. And I mean, like, the way that we would react as well, even if Russia attacked Canada, not directly, but through a proxy, you know? If Russia armed, like, an indigenous separatist movement that started, like, shooting at or bombing or shelling Canadians, no one would be confused about, like, who was, like, responsible, you know? There would be no, like, no, we can't attack Russia over this. They're not doing anything directly. There would be no confusion about, like, where that violence was coming from. It does sound amazing, and I agree that they should do that. I agree. American politics are wild. One party is the anti-Russia party, and the other is the anti-China party. I mean, they both are. They both are, just with maybe varying degrees. You know? Like, there's some people in the Republican Party that are more pro-Russia, but there's also, like, Lindsey Graham, who's like, we're arming the Ukrainians so they kill Russians, just being, like, totally open about it and enthusiastic about it. It's kind of funny how important and powerful and influential so many Canadians think Canada is on the world stage. These countries are just risking it all to destabilize us, for sure. It's that colonial mentality, right? It's the kind of colonial arrogance. Of course, China's like, yeah, President Xi is just staying up at night worrying about these various liberal backbenchers and whether they're going to be able to have control. It's like, fucking Jesus Christ. We don't think about you at all. You know? Everyone just views Canada as an American state. Yeah, correctly. Yeah. And they're correct to do so. Most Republicans worry that war with Russia would distract from the more important war with China. Yeah, that seems to be the trend, and the Democrats are going all in on the China bad stuff as well. I like Patty's Pub. I remember she tried to walk away from Trudeau badgering him. God, that was funny. That was just so funny. A little barking dog that does whatever the U.S. tells it to is back. Yeah, exactly.
You can count on me. You're going to have good
that
old
really
Rob
was
to
like,
talk you through all this.
Wow. Kefrika. Thank you, Kefrika, for the follow and the tier 1 sub. Very much appreciated. Brand new community member. That's always very exciting. Thank you, Kefrika. I appreciate that. Yeah, the Chinese officials just shitting their pants, and Pierre Polyev criticizes them. Absolutely. They're just terrified of this guy. This little fucking dweeb. Oh yeah. What are we gonna do if this guy takes over? Oh no, it's gonna be an end game for us. I'm not. This is just a new account. Oh, okay. Well. Was briefly excited for a little moment there. Little dose of reality for his power in the world. For sure, that's really what it was. That was like the leader of like an important vital economy and kind of burgeoning hegemonic world power versus like this little lapdog of the U.S. Sir, maybe can you stop interfering in our politics? He's just like, just leave me alone. Get out of here. Get out of here. I don't know this guy. Who is this guy? I wonder if there's any. This is like very pleasant right now, like climate wise. My door is open here, and when I open the windows and the doors to my office here, it's really like, it almost feels like I'm outside. I got the fan going. It's very nice. Very sunny. Maybe we can take a look at like the Blinken Xi meeting. There's a place for me, place I go, here is cheap, below with Patty's Pub. I like Patty's Pub. Record show, the only place to go is that place called Patty's Pub. Okay.
Beijing is the focus of a major international story we are following this morning. And while neither side is calling it a thaw just yet, there are positive sounding remarks from both China and the U.S. after talks between Chinese President Xi Jinping and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Blinken's sit down with Xi this morning capped his two-day diplomatic mission. Tensions between Washington and Beijing have become increasingly icy over U.S. support for Taiwan and the downing of what the U.S. calls a Chinese spy balloon back in February. That incident led
I love the idea that like the reason that the heightens the tension has become heightened is because of like what China has done, which is totally fucking false. Like there's a reason that tensions are rising. Maybe it's because we have this nonstop belligerence, accusing them of doing genocide, accusing them of stealing our precious Michaels, accusing them of like, you know, authoritarianism or totalitarianism or autocracy, criticizing them over over Hong Kong or Tibet or any of these other things. Just this nonstop stream of belligerence coming from our brutal, fucking genocidal settler colonies. Perhaps that's contributing to these heightened tensions. They give Biden a Fig Newton. Yeah.
Blinken postponing a trip to China planned for that month. He is the highest-ranking Biden administration official to visit Beijing and also the first U.S. Secretary of State to make that trip in 5 years. Patrick Falk joins us now on this story from Singapore. Patrick, Blinken has been speaking to reporters. How is he characterizing the talks?
Yeah, well, look, everything that's been happening over the last couple of hours has been watched very closely indeed. A very important and symbolic meeting has taken place with President Xi Jinping. We're still trying to get a little bit more detail on what Secretary Blinken is saying to reporters, but the gist of it really is that he sees and China sees it as being important and in the interests of both countries to steady that relationship. He has, of course, been in marathon talks over the last few days. Yesterday, the discussions with Qingang went on for around 7.5 hours, and the discussions with Wang Yi went on for about 3 hours. So this meeting with President Xi as the culmination of that, signaling that the two sides are trying to patch their differences together. We've got a clip from Secretary Blinken in that meeting with Xi Jinping. Let's take a listen in.
In every meeting, I stress that direct engagement and sustained communication at senior levels is the best way to responsibly manage our differences and ensure that competition does not veer into conflict. And I heard the same from my Chinese counterparts. We both agree on the need.
The fucking Americans are so slimy though, because they always like, in these moments, they all agree with all these things. And as Blinken will point out, we don't support an independent Taiwan. And we agree that we need to lower the hostility, we need to do this and do that. And then they immediately continue the belligerence and continue the aggressiveness, which I think China recognizes as well. They recognize that all of this is just talk and this rhetoric is always bullshit. They don't actually follow through on any of these high-minded ideals about diplomacy. They're going to continue being aggressive in the Taiwan Strait. They're going to continue absolutely everything that they've been doing. Yeah, and they know that they're totally full of shit head to toe. It's part of the American imperial playbook, and it is foolish to believe them, and China knows that. Like, obviously, every country around the world would be foolish to believe Americans when they say anything like this stuff.
Need to stabilize our relationship.
I like the delay.
One of the interesting things is that all along we've been hearing from the Americans that the main thing on the agenda is really to re-engage with Beijing and to keep communication lines open. And it's been notable that there haven't been many official readouts to come out of the American side, and they haven't been telling much about what's been going on in these discussions behind closed doors, whereas the Chinese, by contrast, have been making quite a demonstration, if you like, of the discussions that have been taking place. We've been hearing a lot from Chinese media, and in a sense, you might argue that optically the Chinese do seem as though they've come out of these discussions looking stronger. And certainly today, from the talks that took place with State Councillor Wang Yi, he was quoted in Chinese media as having told Secretary Blinken that the reason or the root cause for the breakdown in relations is because of the US's wrong perception of China, and that this has led to
100% truth. 100% true. Trust Wang Yi to tell it like it is. Friend of the stream, Wang Yi.
Misguided policies, and he urged the US to reflect deeply and to work with China to manage their differences. So, as I say, it's been very important optically for the Chinese to demonstrate to their domestic audience that they are speaking from a position of strength, but it doesn't necessarily signal that they are managing this relationship more responsibly.
Thank you, Patrick. Patrick Falk in Singapore.
It kind of does indicate that when they're specifically saying true things about what the source of the hostility is. You know, they're just pointing out correctly the reason that all this hostility exists, or these tensions have been increasing. Maybe we'll hop on the stream. That would be so sick. Oh, Wang Yi doesn't follow me. There's a few CPC officials that follow me. I haven't got that prestigious Wang Yi follow back though, unfortunately. Here's what Blinken says about
We're taking you live to Beijing, where Secretary of State Antony Blinken is speaking following his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Let's listen.
At a critical moment. And I could not be prouder.
Not touching, can't get
of how
mad
they
is the
represent our
official
country.
U.S. foreign policy. Yep. It's the
Over the
bigger
past
brother in the
2.5
back
years,
seat strategy.
The United States has taken a series of purposeful strategic steps, both at home and abroad, and are standing around the world.
How long until CSIS puts out a list of Canadians that are pro-China propagandists? Like, I'm pretty sure they already have. And eventually I'm going to be included in these lists. I think I feel a little snubbed that in these, I guess they've been focusing more on Russia and the Russian-Ukraine stuff. I know they did do a report on Canadians that are doing Russian propaganda. I don't know if they released the names. I don't know if they released the actual names of the alleged propagandists. I would like to start getting some fucking respect from these lists, though. I would like to stop getting snubbed by these lists of like accusations about foreign interference and propaganda. I would like to start being correctly and rightfully included on these kinds of lists.
We've made historic investments in our infrastructure, technology, industrial capacity.
Imagine just visiting China and then hyping up your historic investments in infrastructure. Oh yeah, really, you can really see it. All of that big historic investment. You really look at America right now and say, wow, look at that amazing, gleaming infrastructure. Just really remarkable. He actually uses the word historic. You were just in China and you're talking about the historic infrastructure investment in where? America? Really? Where is that exactly? Didn't the entire part of a freeway collapse just days ago, which will probably take fucking 3 years to finish fixing? China's built an entire high-speed rail system in the past decade. U.S. can't even patch up the train tunnels between NYC and New Jersey. It is about getting a bike lane. Exactly. Getting a bike lane is historic. In order to get it, they had to give an extra $1 billion to the local police department. But, that's money well spent. A historic infrastructure. No, you've not had an historic infrastructure development. You have not. No, you have not.
Competitiveness. We've deepened our engagement and alignment with allies and partners around the world in ways that would have been unimaginable a few years ago. That's the backdrop for the relationship between the United States and the People's Republic of China, one of the most consequential in the world. Both the United States and China have an obligation to manage this relationship responsibly. Doing so serves the best interests of the United States, of China, indeed, of the world. We are clear-eyed about the challenges posed by the PRC. The United States will advance a vision for the future that we share with so many others, a free, open, stable, and prosperous world, with countries upholding and updating the rules-based order.
Their actions have not in any way contributed to this stable rules-based global order that he's talking about. No, they have not. He does look like he's going to cry. It's just very beta energy from Anthony Blinken. Our apartments have several charging stations and no electric cars. Good. Yeah. Funny enough, they would build a bike lane in my neighborhood, but people living around put pressure on the city to stop it to have parking space for their cars instead of bike lanes. Yeah, good. That's why you got to leave it up to the people. He is a wiener. You'd think your top diplomat should have maybe some charisma, Be like someone that you'd want to spend time with. Yeah, it is just about preserving American hegemony. That's the funny thing is just that I understand that like Americans watching this but maybe believe this, but like no one around the world believes this anymore. That's really the shift that we've seen over the last couple of years. Like no one has to even pretend. Now with the emergence of China and the emergence of BRICS and the emergence of this kind of like multilateral global system that's emerging, they don't have to pretend to believe that shit anymore. No one has to pretend that like they give this the moment's credence. No one fucking believes this shit anymore.
Has for years safeguarded peace and security globally. To shape that future, we start with diplomacy, including with China. I came to Beijing to strengthen high-level channels of communication, to make clear our positions and intentions in areas of disagreement, and to explore areas where we might work together when our interests align on shared transnational challenges, and we did all of that. Here in Beijing, I had an important conversation with President Xi Jinping, and I had candid, substantive, and constructive discussions with my counterparts, Director Wang Yi and State Councilor Qin Gang. I appreciate the hospitality extended by our hosts.
She was enthralled. Yeah.
Meeting. I stress that direct engagement and sustained communication at senior levels is the best way to responsibly manage our differences and ensure that competition does not veer into conflict. And I heard the same from my Chinese counterparts. We both agree on the need to stabilize our relationship. During those meetings, we had a robust conversation about regional and global challenges. That includes Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. I reiterated that we would welcome China playing a constructive role, along with other nations, to work toward a just peace based on the principles of the United Nations Charter. We also spoke about North Korea's increasingly reckless actions and rhetoric. All members of the international community have an interest in encouraging the DPRK to act responsibly, to stop launching missiles, to start engaging on its nuclear program.
You act
China's in a
responsibly.
unique position to
Get
press
your fucking
Pyongyang to
military
engage
off their
in dialogue
border then,
and to
dickhead.
end its dangerous behavior. I raised U.S. concerns shared by a growing number of countries
Jesus.
about the PRC's provocative actions in the Taiwan Strait, as well as in the South and East China Seas.
Oh, sorry,
Taiwan,
what?
shared by a growing number of countries about the PRC's provocative actions in the Taiwan Strait.
Oh, they're provocative
as well as
actions in
in
the
the South and East China
Taiwan
Seas.
Strait.
On Taiwan, I reiterated the long-standing U.S. One China policy. That policy has not changed. It's guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 joint communiques, the 6 assurances. We do not support Taiwan independence. We remain opposed to any unilateral changes to the status quo by either side.
But they're changing the status quo, though. They've got big American diplomats and politicians going to Taiwan, despite China saying, like, we don't want you doing this. Like we covered with the whole Pelosi thing last summer. Like when they specifically say, don't come here, we consider that a violation to the One China policy, and then you come anyways, then you don't agree with maintaining that policy. When they're provocatively sending their ships to the Taiwan Strait, they're trying to like arm Taiwan as much as possible. They're very clearly not abiding by that. It's always with the words, though. Of course we still believe in that. Of course we still believe in that, as they, through the other side of their mouth, are supporting Taiwanese and Hong Kong and Xinjiang independence movements. Just maybe not officially, through the NGOs, through the intelligence community. But officially, of course, we still support the sovereignty and we still support this One China policy. But they obviously, through their actions, do not. Hey, Hilda Beast, how's it going? Good, important to listen to it again, though.
The 3 joint communiques, the 6 assurances. We do not support Taiwan independence. We remain opposed to any unilateral changes to the status quo by either side.
Yeah, he's like a cop yelling, "I feel threatened," while parked in someone else's driveway. I mean, it's interesting because in the actions of the police, you see it on like a community level, the way that imperialism functions on an international level. And that whole concept of like how fascism is when colonialism, the violence of colonialism gets inflicted on the population. And you see that phenomenon play out, right? You see the way that like the police provoke and occupy, these militarized police occupy these neighborhoods and use it as a form of to justify further violence. And you see America do that on a global international stage as well.
We continue to expect the peaceful resolution of cross-strait differences. We remain committed to meeting our responsibilities under the Taiwan Relations Act, including making sure that Taiwan has the ability to defend itself.
Oh, so we
also spoke about.
We believe so much in the One China policy, and we don't support Taiwan independence. That's why we need to continue sending arms to Taiwan.
A range of bilateral issues, including continuing to develop principles to guide our relationship, as discussed by President Biden and President Xi in Bali late last year. We exchanged views on our respective economic policies, including our concerns about China's unfair treatment of U.S. companies. During my meeting today with U.S. business leaders who are operating in China, I heard about the problems that U.S. businesses are facing, including recent punitive actions against American firms. I also heard that U.S. companies want to continue and indeed grow their businesses here. And so in my meetings, I sought to clarify any misperceptions or misunderstandings about our approach. There is a profound difference for the United States and for many other countries between de-risking and decoupling. Our country's traded more over the last year, in fact, more than ever over the last year, nearly $700 billion. Healthy and robust economic engagement benefits both the United States and China. And
Punitive actions, how dare a government enforce its laws? Or you're talking about, like, for instance, the way all these American firms that he's crying about are being pressured to not do business in this, like, major economic center because of these, like, wild-eyed accusations about human rights. Where there's all these American firms that are being criticized, and are actually there's laws being passed to punish American firms that he seems to care about from doing business in this place where we've proclaimed a genocide is going on, where it's using slave labor, to say nothing of the fucking slave labor that we know of that's happening in the United States of America right now to this very day. But because they've invented all these kinds of accusations that they've been repeatedly going after American firms for doing business there, and then they're saying, like, what's wrong with China? Why is China being so aggressive with our American firms here? Our beautiful companies have been treated very badly. Very nasty. They've been very nasty towards our firms.
as Secretary Yellen testified before Congress last week, it would be, as she put it, disastrous for us to decouple and stop all trade and investment with China. We are for de-risking and diversifying. That means investing in our own capacities and in secure, resilient supply chains, pushing for level playing fields for our workers and our companies, defending against harmful trade practices, and protecting our critical technologies so that they aren't used against us. I made clear that we'll continue to take targeted actions that are necessary to protect U.S. national security. In my meetings, I also discussed...
But of course, they're not allowed to do the same, right? They have this unilateral right to have these actions to protect U.S. national security, but their own national security doesn't seem to matter all that much when they make moves or engage in practices that protect their national security from the fact that they're completely encircled with American military bases. You know, again, in the Philippines, in Indonesia, in South Korea, in Okinawa. They're not allowed to defend their national security, though. And if that includes building military bases elsewhere, like in Cuba, for example. You can make the case that that's an essential part of their national security interests. Is that allowed, though? Of course not.
Just human rights. The United States and the international community remain deeply concerned about PRC human rights violations, including in Xinjiang, in Tibet, in Hong Kong.
Fucking what are these human rights violations in Hong Kong? What are you even talking about? We've talked about, like, if you're talking about the protest movement, again, we can compare the protest movement that we saw in Hong Kong versus what we saw in the George Floyd protests and see which was more violent and more repressive and more authoritarian. It was night and day. It was not even close. The fucking Americans lecturing about human rights is just never going to... And they have the same reaction. And countries around the world have the same reaction, especially in the global south, that have been victims of monstrous human rights violations on the part of the United States. They all recognize that this is complete bullshit. In front of this big American flag, talking about how we're so deeply concerned about these human rights situations. Like, are you fucking kidding me? No one believes this anymore. No one is buying this except the people that live in this, like, in the empire, that are immersed in this kind of bubble. They're the only people that take this remotely seriously. Every single other person around the world is just like, recognize how completely hypocritical that is. There are human rights violations with the thousands of homeless people on the streets in my city. I mean, there's people being fucking eaten by insects in American prisons, like right now. Like, to say nothing about how America treats people around the world or treats people on the border, American citizens in American prisons right now, to this very, like in this very moment, experiencing unimaginable torture and cruelty in the American prison system, which vastly outweighs the prison system in China. And this man still totally zero embarrassment, zero like self-awareness as standing in front of this American flag and talking about human rights. Rikers is exactly what conservatives think prison under communism is like. For sure, it's like people that have not been convicted of a crime. They haven't even been convicted. They haven't even gone to trial. And there's people dying there. Dying. Not people that went on trial for a crime and received the death penalty and is getting executed by the state. Just people who are just in Rikers who have not been convicted of a crime, just dying because of cruelty and neglect.
I also specifically raised wrongfully detained U.S. citizens and those facing exit bans. There is no higher priority for me than the safety and well-being of U.S. citizens overseas, and I'll continue to work intensively to secure their release and their safe return home. As we work to address our differences, the United States is prepared to cooperate with China in areas where we have mutual interests, including climate, macroeconomic stability, public health, food security, counter-narcotics. On food security, we believe China can play a key role in alleviating global food insecurity.
The beautiful Michaels.
I underscore the importance of supporting a long-term expansion of the Black Sea Grain Initiative, which has facilitated the export of almost 32 million
Our
tons
precious
of grain
Michaels.
From Ukraine, with approximately 18 million tons going to developing countries. A long-term expansion is critical for avoiding food shortages in some of the poorest, most food insecure countries in the world, as well as price surges. I raised as a priority the issue of synthetic
We hope China can help with the
opioids
food insecurity.
and
Also, by the way, we just made it harder for SNAP participants to actually buy food. We literally kicked people off of food stamps to give even more money to our military. The people who are already being having to jump through so many fucking hoops are being kicked out, making even more difficult for people to get that need it to access food stamps so the military can have a few extra $1 billion. Or that accounting error. That's that story. Oh, you just had a accounting error. Turns out there's like an extra $6 billion we have to give to Ukraine now. Isn't that great? It's weird how that works, isn't it? Like, we just found $6 billion lying around. We can give it to Ukraine. Great. But whenever you talk about healthcare, when you talk about food stamps, social programs, infrastructure, it's like, ooh, that's pretty pricey. Ooh. How are you going to pay for that? How are you going to find the money for that? It's very expensive. Even the media plays this. The costly medical program and the costly food stamp program. We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account when it comes to the military contractors. Yeah. It's got to mark up some accounts.
Fentanyl, a crisis in the United States. Fentanyl is the #1 killer of Americans aged 18 to 49. We need much greater cooperation on this critical issue. We agreed to explore setting up a working group or effort so that we can shut off the flow of precursor chemicals, which help fuel this crisis and a growing number of deaths. Finally, we discussed the importance of strengthening people-to-people exchanges between students, scholars, business travelers.
Oh yeah, I think it's even when you dig into like the DoD and the missing money, it's way more than $6 billion.
Today,
for sure.
I had an opportunity to meet with an impressive group of alumni from those exchange
It's just a pure
programs.
fraud. It's just a pure scam.
In my meetings, we discussed enhancing educational exchanges, and we committed to work to increase direct flights between our countries. Continue dialogue on these and other important issues. visits by Chinese officials to the United States. To that end, I invited State Counselor and Foreign Minister Qin Gang to visit Washington, and he agreed to come at a mutually suitable time. A little later this evening, I leave for London to attend the Ukraine Recovery Conference, and I'll also have an opportunity there to brief allies and partners on this visit and to continue to strengthen our
He does seem
alignment.
like he's doing the China fueling the
We
fentanyl
have
crisis rhetoric.
no
Yes.
illusions about the challenges of managing this relationship.
Hey, Husker, how's it going?
There are many issues on which we profoundly, even vehemently, disagree. We will always take the best course of action to advance the interests of the American people. But the United States has a long history of successfully managing complicated, consequential relationships through diplomacy. It's the responsibility of both countries.
No, I didn't watch
to
the
find
Trump
a path
interview
forward,
yet. Maybe if there's
and it's
time,
in
we can
both
take a
our
look at that
interests
today.
and the interests of the world that we do so.
We'll take a few questions. The first question goes.
And I should remind people too, it's been an hour and 40 minutes into this stream. Got a couple of viewers right now, which is very nice. But just remind you as well that, like, if you enjoy this program, folks, I should let you know that the only way that this program, TRRS, appears on the air, and the only way that I'm able to advance this kind of viewpoint here on Twitch, obviously it's a viewpoint that's not exactly present in our sort of mainstream discourse in Canada or the United States. And if you like having this kind of viewpoint represented here on twitch.tv, if you enjoy this show and the community, please, if you can, subscribe to TRRS. It costs $5 per month to subscribe.
You can
Or
count on me.
it's
You're gonna have
completely
good
free of
old Rob
charge.
to talk you through all this.
It's completely free of charge with an Amazon Prime account. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can just convert that to a Twitch Prime sub, totally
You've
free.
just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Totally free and very, very helpful. Every little bit helps. Please join the community. You can join the base level with a subscription or a gifted sub, or you can rocket all the way up to the very top to the elite tier of the Friendship Triangle system with a gift of 5 subs or more. Like we just saw from our friend Alt Tab Dad. Thank you so much, Alt Tab Dad, for the very, very generous 5 gifted subs. Very, very kind of you for that. And again, immediately, you know, you look at the Friendship Triangle community, you say, God, to be an elite tier member of that community, God, would that be wonderful or what? But that's going to, you know, that probably is going to be a big investment in time and energy. And it's going to take years.
You're going to have good old
It's going to take months. It's going to take years. No, it's actually very simple. You can be an elite tier member right away with a gift of 5 subs or above. As Alt Tab Dad has showed us here. One of the most elite members of the community, right away. And thank you also, Diego, for the gifted sub and for all the huge amount of support that you've shown the stream. Diego, aka Comrade Social Distancing. And thank you also to Moss. Thank you, Moss World, for the 2 gifted subs as well. Yeah, folks, remember, just if you enjoy the show, if you enjoy the community, this is the only way that I'm able to keep doing this show. I absolutely love doing this stream.
You can count on
each
me.
and every
You're gonna have
day,
good old Rob
and
to,
hanging out
talk
with folks
you
in
through
this
all
channel,
Making
And-
friends has never been cheaper.
and talking to each and every one of you, and hanging out and going over the news, and getting this analysis out there. I absolutely love to do it. The only way I'm able to do this show on a regular basis, though, is through the really incredible generosity of people in the community, such as In Search of Slack as well. Thank you for the 19 months of Tier 1. In Search of Slack, thank you for that. The only way I'm able to keep doing this show, the only way this stream stays on the air, is through the amazing community and the amazing generosity and support that I've seen. So one final time, folks, and we are nearing a hype train as well. So one final time.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Thank you. Thank you, Grog, for your journalistic efforts. Again, that's not my name. I think it's actually very clear that I don't say Grog in that alert. In fact, it's kind of alarming to me that so many people seem to have thought that. But thank you, Narrator 9000, for the 100 friend coin. So one final time, folks, if you enjoy the work that I do here, the conversations, the interviews, the analysis, the community, and you want to get the little tiny images the tiny images, some of the very best tiny little images on this entire platform. When you subscribe to TRRS for $5 only, you get some of the very best tiny little images, and then in this and any other Twitch chat, you can go in and use those images, and it's very cool. It's a very cool thing. You're basically just paying a couple bucks a month to rent.
Rob to talk you through all this.
To rent some of the very best tiny little images that you can hope to ask for. And thank you to our beautiful anonymous gifter, the most Christ-like of all gifters. They don't want the accolades. They don't want the shout-outs. Anonymous gifter, thank you for the gifted sub. And thank you Alt-Tab Dad as well for the gifted sub. Thank you Alt-Tab Dad. Fuck. Thank you Alt-Tab Dad. Bit of a tongue twister. Bit of a tongue twister on that one. Thank you for another gifted sub, though. It's very kind of you. Hold me closer, tiny images. You know, who would have thunk? Who would have thunk all those years ago when I said, I'm 20 years old. I got my whole life stretching out ahead of me. I can do anything. And here I am 20 years later, convincing people to part with their $5 so they can rent some tiny little images that I made that they can use in chats online. I've really come a long way. Which viewpoint is it you are presenting? Are you giving me an option, or do you just want to explain my viewpoint? Living the dream. I am working on supplementing the income that I get here. I'm trying to work on developing more of a portfolio for producing podcasts and consulting on that, and doing music as well. I've done music for a couple of podcasts. Now I just made some more music for another podcast, and I've been doing some advising on that. I'm hoping that I can get that going a little bit, so I'm not quite as under the gun. I was really happy with this music that I made, though. You said if we like your viewpoint. I don't know what it is yet. Okay, so Gomez, a pretty new community member. I don't know, what's the viewpoint? What's the viewpoint? If you look at in the description, the about section of the channel, it kind of outlines everything in there, I think. Yeah, it's like the immortal science of Marxism, Leninism, and dialectical materialism. We talk about snacks and beverages. We try to the main thing, if you want me to be serious, is that I'm trying to deprogram myself and others from this relentless Western propaganda that we've been totally inundated with for our entire lives. Sometimes we really like to point the finger at other countries like China or DPRK or Russia or Venezuela or Cuba or whoever as being these sinister propaganda, and we suggest that we're not actually the victims of the world's most highly funded and advanced propaganda machine that we've just been completely we've lived under completely for our entire lives and been completely immersed in and surrounded by. See, Gomez, so I think we have some work to do for you here. We got some work to do, clearly. You need to wake up, Gomez. You need to wake up to the reality. You need to be able to get out of the
good old Rob to
the
talk
bubble,
you through all this.
The Western bubble. Thank you so much, GMO Radio, for the gifted sub. To Wang Yi, there we go, official friend of the stream. Official friend of the stream. Yeah, if you want to talk about my viewpoint, one of the main viewpoints of this program is that we support and uphold the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. As you can see, look. This is part of the official stance This is part of the official editorial line of this program. Lots of poverty, really. Lots of poverty in DPRK. It's weird that you say that. Do you think maybe, possibly, that one of the reasons that there's poverty in the DPRK is that they've been under economic sanction and blockade from the most powerful military and economic power in the entire world for the last 70 years? And they thought if they threatened to arrest you for shaking your hand, do you might wonder why they might be a little suspicious of Americans or Canadians or wherever you're from going over there and poking around? Do you know anything that happened in the Korean War? Like, do you know that like America, with the assistance of Canada, killed 3 million people in Korea during the Korean War and bombed their entire country, destroyed their every single bit of infrastructure in their entire country while killing 3 million people? And we've been parked directly on their border since that time, aiming missiles at them. Do you think maybe that might have something to do with their like views on Westerners coming over there and poking around? I think that these things might be related, and this is the kind of the radical viewpoint of this show, is that we investigate whether there's some kind of connection between these two things. That's called a dialectic. And we examine whether these things might be connected. Whether there's some kind of hostility to like Westerners or Canadian Americans in DPRK. And then we ask ourselves questions about why might that be? Why might that be? Did we, and more importantly, did we do anything to contribute to that exact situation? Did we help create that exact situation? Did we, again, the most powerful hegemonic military force in the world, I'm talking about like the Anglosphere, not just America. Did we contribute to that in some way? Yeah, this is a little something called historical context. That's right. That's called historical materialism. You ask about the actual events in history that led up to this situation that you're describing happening. And then you try to like apply a sort of critical framework to understanding how and why these events happened through like a class analysis. You hold a kind of Marxist lens up to these historical events to wonder if you can maybe get at these sort of material forces that are animating these big like global and historical events. The real Gomez Adams wouldn't say these things. No, I don't think so either. Well, so while we were like talking about this stuff, and again, thank you to everyone who supports the stream and who supported the hype train or whatever just now. I don't want to just like go back and forth and like relitigate the entire history of this show for the benefit of some like new chatter that just showed up. But since we've been talking about since we've been talking about China today, and we've been talking about RFK Jr. as well over the last couple of days, I wanted to take a look at this clip. Because I tweeted about this, but a couple people were mad at me about it. But we'll see if we can actually have some productive discourse about this clip of RFK. It's a crime to talk negatively about the supreme leader in North Korea. Well, it's also a crime here on this channel. And we'll give you a pass because you're obviously new to the community. But it's also a crime here, so that's going to be a first strike kind of a situation. because we're subject to all those same laws and rules. So anyway, I wanted to take a look at this clip and this is how it was described. And I thought this was I was a little annoyed about this, actually. It's someone from MMFA who says on Newsmax, RFK Jr. claims that the Chinese are developing ethnic bioweapons that are designed to attack people of certain racial types. And I was a little annoyed by how this was like framed, because in this clip, he doesn't just talk about China. He then goes on to afterwards talk about the ways that the U.S. is also engaging in this kind of like bioweaponry research. So that's not a totally accurate framing. And that's what I think when I tweeted about this, because there's so many people circling around RFK as being some kind of like anti-imperialist hero. I thought it was funny that he's like framing this story about Chinese like bioweapons. But in this clip, that's not all he did. Ethnic bioweapons is some sci-fi shit. Well, here's the thing, is that like China has actually accused the US of doing this kind of research into bioweaponry and incorporating DNA and this kind of stuff. And so like I genuinely think that this is a conspiracy theory that like I think there's a kernel of truth to it. I think the problem that I had with this like clip of RFK was that he was suggesting that was something that China was doing, like in addition to the U.S., when really I think that's a case of him accusing China of doing something that America is doing at least research on, with no actual evidence that they're doing the same thing. But I actually do think, and I would like to watch this clip to really like get into the specifics of what he says here. There has been genuine, like whether it's gone anywhere or not, or whether there's any kind of scientific merit to it or not, I do actually believe that America and the CIA and the defense companies have done research onto this kind of thing. But I don't think that just because they have, there's any kind of evidence that China's doing the same thing. That's kind of what I took issue with. Okay, Gomez. Well, thanks a lot for stopping by the stream. It was great to have you. This has been a great experience. Okay, already gone. We had the radar. We were on the radar wavelength there. Lodane. My finger was hovering over the button. My finger was just hovering over the click, the band click. Yeah, next time you visit, you can tell them we said hello. Exactly. So anyway, I want to watch this clip of RFK on Newsmax talking about these like ethnic bioweapons, and then get into like what part of this is, what kernels of truth are there, and what's the crank stuff. Yes, sorry, Alt Tab Dad. I'm sorry about that. I really can't say that name without messing it up. But your gifted sub was still very generous and still went to support the stream, and that's really the important thing here, I think. So here we go. Let's look at this clip of RFK on Newsmax. What time is it? 2:42. Okay. I love censorship. Big fan as well. Big fan of censorship as well. I really do. You know, even though I don't want to just like talk bollocks or whatever, or do this kind of like LARP kind of thing, it really would be sick to seize the media and to just totally take over the media, wouldn't it? If we just totally nationalized the media, that would be really sick to do. And then there were certain viewpoints that we just said like, yeah, we're no more of these actually. Wouldn't that be cool? Again, I don't want to like to act like a big tough guy or LARP or whatever, but like it would be sick to do that. And be like, yeah, no, we're not actually going to say those kind of things anymore. It's actually illegal now. Just banning Joe Rogan for sure. Absolutely. I would love it. I would love every moment of it. Yeah, no more capitalists on TV. No. And of course, Gomez is DMing me now. Gomez is complaining of being censored. Gomez, you were censored not for going to North Korea as you asked, but for being a dick. Okay? And we don't even have to have a reason. This is not a democracy. This stream is an authoritarian dictatorship. And we can ban anyone at any time for any reason. So we don't even need a reason, but it's for being a dick to people. That's why. Oh, come on, they say. No, sorry. You're gone. You're out. I'm not a guy in a basement. He says you're a guy in a basement, not a dictator. No, I'm actually not in a basement. I'm in quite a nice office right now. Nice little office space. And I am, when it comes to this stream, I am a dictator. That's absolutely right. Okay, goodbye. He's blocked now. Typing to streamer because you got banned is hilarious. It is, yeah. How dare you call Langley a basement? Exactly. This is a big air-conditioned kind of a giant chamber, okay? I'm trying to think of a word now that has lost me because my brain has holes in it. Probably because of COVID. Anyway. He's clearly in a well-lit room with a window and not a basement. Thank you, Pinklon. Thank you. Broadcasting live from a conference room in Langley, Virginia. That's right. Anyway, so let's watch this clip of RFK on Newsmax. Again, I a little bit regretted this tweet because I was reacting to the China thing, but that he did go on to talk about the U.S.'s role in doing this very thing. Even though I don't think there's any evidence that China is engaging in the same kind of research. I'm not sending them thousands of dollars a year in taxes. Keep this man in a basement. Thank you. A big hangar. Yeah, I think that's the word I was looking for. With all the other streamers, exactly. Yeah, this is where they put Greta, exactly. So I regretted this tweet a little bit. I kept it up, though, because I do think that lumping China into this kind of thing is lame. And I do think it's lame, regardless of this, to hold RFK just because he talks about the CIA or he talks about empire and no one else in the Democratic Party is willing to do that, holding up as being some kind of hero. I'm sorry, but I don't agree with that considering all the other completely wacky shit that he says. And he's also a Zionist. So if you're going to try and hold this guy up as being some kind of anti-imperialist because he says CIA bad sometimes, he's a fucking Zionist. So that's all you really need to say. Rob, Hassan, Mike from PA, and Dan are all on level 10 of Dolce Base right now above the reptilian level. Yeah, he talks about the CIA because they killed his family. That's broken clock shit. Exactly. And I think like many of these conspiracy wackos, that's always what makes me question whether they themselves are part of the op, because they talk about things that are very real. You can look at RFK Jr., you can look at Alex Jones. They talk about things often that have these kernels of truth and this basis in reality. I mean, you look at what's been admitted to and reported on about what the CIA has done over the last couple of decades, and it sounds like a wacky conspiracy theory, just the things that we know about. So a lot of that stuff is based in reality. It is based in kernels of truth. And then they go off in this totally other wacky directions when it comes to vaccines, when it comes to Wi-Fi signals giving you brain cancer and all this wacky shit. Hormones going in drinking water to make kids trans. Fuck. And that's, in a way, that's why I think it is, sort of a controlled opposition or some kind of psyop as well, to make the real stuff seem totally unpalatable to the vast majority of people and to make it seem like wacky crank shit. Anyway, I've set this clip up enough. Let's hear what he has to say and we'll go over it. And we can take a look at the idea about these ethnic bioweapons, which there is an element of truth to.
But what I worry about is a WMD like a virus, like a gain of function, something. Do you worry about that? Because I see that as sort of the next big fight. Because those viruses don't see any borders, and they're relatively cheap to do this gain of function. I mean, it's just so. That's what I worry about more than the big hardware.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and we know that the Chinese are developing ethnic bioweapons that are designed to attack people of certain racial types.
So just that, though. We know that the Chinese are doing this. How do we know that? Where's this? He says we know a lot of things, right? We know that Wi-Fi signals give you brain cancer. We know all kinds of things. But how do we know that? I have not seen anything about that, frankly. And I look at a lot of wacky conspiracy shit about China and what the deep state and what the CIA is doing. So, because we're doing it, that's what I mean. It's we know that seems to be the evidence that he's using. The fact that we're doing it is just evidence in and of itself that and he frames it first like the Chinese are doing it. And the way he frames it sounds like we're doing it in response. Wondering what RFK Jr. would sound like on carpool karaoke. The voice is not good.
And we're doing the same thing. We've been collecting Chinese DNA. We've been collecting Russian DNA specifically for that. This arms race is a catastrophe. In 1969, we had developed by then nuclear equivalency with bioweapons. So we could eliminate the same numbers of people with bioweapons at, I think, 29 cents a death. They calculated, the Defense Department and the CIA calculated.
We probably have been subjected to all these bioweapons with all the rising cancer. We talk a lot about the rise in autism rates and vaccines and all this bullshit. We don't talk nearly enough probably about the rising in cancer rates, right? We have all been mass poisoned by these massive corporations here. Not just using bioweapons against other places. The rise in cancer rates, all the microplastics that we've been ingesting. No, I know that he has a medical thing. I know that, and like I was saying before, if he did have that golden Kennedy voice, he would probably be in a lot more of a better position to actually win something here. That's what most of RFK's legal work focuses on. He's one of the few people in MSM talking about any of that stuff. Well, I guess that's the problem, though, Matt. Right? Is that I talked about the kernels of truth, and he does focus on important things. He talks about climate. He does talk, like I was saying, he talks about the empire and the CIA, and he talks about these environmental factors, but then totally goes off in these totally wacko directions, which I think discredits a lot of the very real things that he does spend time talking about. There's probably a very clear correlation between processed food consumption and cancer rates. No, for sure. It's outrageous. He sounds fine. Well, I guess that's what I mean. It's he talks about important things, but then, he frames this whole conversation as being China's is by saying China's doing it. Then he gets into the stuff that there's elements of truth to.
Later at that time. And President Nixon did the most extraordinary thing. He went to Fort Detrick and he said, we are unilaterally ending the bioweapons arms race. We are giving up all of our bioweapons. We're going to destroy them. We're going to disable the capacity at Fort Detrick, and we're not going to make them anymore. And
did he disable anything, though?
3 years later, almost all the nations on the earth signed a charter stopping bioweapons production. And the problem was, the CIA continued to do secret bioweapons production.
That's why you had all those Japanese war criminals brought over.
Rejigged their program.
You're not going to stop
and
that.
After 2001, we passed the Patriot Act, which reopened the arms race, which basically canceled out Nixon's 1979 agreement treaty and launched a new bioweapons arms race, and everybody else in the world is doing it. And the impacts, as you point out, Greta, are horrific. We need to stop it. We need to go to all those nations, and we need to say to them, let's get rid of all the bioweapons.
Crap beeps. Oh, my. The bioweapons treaties are totally toothless. They just outlaw development of chemicals and dispersal methods at the same facility. And we know also that just like, regardless of even the treaties, like even if they are toothless, we know that the U.S. doesn't abide by any of that shit. If we think for one moment that they've cut out any of that research or they've stopped doing that, engaging in these programs, or just didn't go off the books, you know, they've absolutely continued doing that kind of research. Anti-vaxxer being interviewed by a Scientologist on a Christo-fascist news outlet. Yeah, it's quite something. And I guess that's kind of the point that I've been trying to talk about is like when we talk about this guy, like it's not that he's a complete wacko in everything that he says. He does focus on some very important things, but discredits, I think, those very important things by going off into these completely wacky directions. And in this case, like talking about the very real evil things that the CIA and the United States empire is up to, but also then projecting out and claiming that other nations are doing the same thing, which there's not a lot of evidence for. I looked into it a lot when Russia was making their bioweapons claims, and it seems pretty credible. I'm positive that it is. I'm positive that there is something to that story. Absolutely. And I'm willing to consider to the origins of COVID as well, and all the accusations of COVID being a bioweapon. You know, we talked about vaping illness. Remember the whole vaping illness craze? I'm perfectly willing to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole about COVID and where it came from. But in the same way that like he's accusing China of it, I think it's been the same thing. China gets accused of wielding these bioweapons, but really it's the kind of a call coming from inside the house situation. Even Alex Jones will start his conspiracies with the nugget of truth, but that doesn't mean we have to hand it to him. No, and that's what I mean. It's like, and that's why I find it frustrating that so many people are rallying around RFK as if he's some kind of like heroic figure, because he'll say a few things that are true, or he's willing to ask some of these questions, while also being this like the most prominent voice in like the anti-vax community, getting into this kind of like contributing to this trans panic and tying all the trans issues into fears of big pharma and biochemical and all this stuff. And it's just like, that's fucking, we don't have to support that. We don't have to support it. And Trump admits some things are true that are all, of course. Yeah, of course. And as we pointed out many times, that's why he was such a popular figure, because he's willing to say these things. And if RFK Jr. was a little bit of a slicker presentation, I think he would have a way better chance at actually like making an impact, making these kinds of claims. We got killers. We got a lot of killers. You think we're so innocent? I'll never forget that. People are so eager to find a figurehead, one nugget of something which resonates, turns into immediate cult of personality. Yeah, that's absolutely part of it. But yeah, as well, if you care about anti-imperialism, just him supporting Israel and being a Zionist, I think is probably all the evidence that you need that he's not some kind of like, not as much of this anti-establishment, anti-imperialist figure as that you would like to think. Yeah, except Trump pardoned the killers. That's right. Trump admitted that they were killers, and then we're just like, we did nothing. You think this country's so innocent, and then actually took people that had been proven to be not innocent and let them free. So, go figure it. Go figure. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Also, Sinchel talking about why are people grasping at straws, and I like when we talk about this, especially on the podcast. I've been mentioning this repeatedly on the Insurgents podcast. Like, there's a reason, though, that people are so willing to, like, okay, RFK Jr., fine, I'll latch onto that. And that speaks to a massive inability or just total refusal on the part of these mainstream liberals and social democrats and whoever else to ask these basic questions. You know, every single person that caucuses with the Democratic Party has been 100% on board with this nonstop flow of arms to Ukraine. Even the people that were like mildly critical of it got yelled at so much by people with Ukraine flag emojis on Twitter that they apologized after. And then, so when someone like RFK Jr. comes along and starts making these basic arguments that we've been making for like over a year on this show, it's not really that much of a surprise that people then like respond to it. But I still think he's a crank. And in some ways he's a crank that I agree with, but in many, many ways he's a crank that's, I think, completely off the deep end on a number of other important issues. Yeah, well, I hear your point, Matt, talking about attack the cartoon character version of him. I mean, the thread that we looked at, though, on here, Matt, he was making some fucking wacky claims about Wi-Fi signals causing brain tumors. We looked at his thing with Jordan Peterson where he's talking about like there's some kind of deep state plot to turn kids trans. Like, that's the whole point, is that he does make valid, reasonable arguments on certain things, but he, in my view, he discredits all that though with the wacky stuff. I don't want to discredit everything. I don't want to take the wacky stuff and discredit everything that he says, which is what the Mehdi Hassans of the world are doing, right? They say, oh, he's a wacko about this, he's a crank about this, so he's also a crank about Russia, Ukraine. He's also a crank about the JFK assassination and the RFK assassination. He's also a crank about these like bioweapons or the things that the CIA do. No, he's actually totally correct on some of these things. But I think he still discredits himself with this really wacky shit, and he gives ammunition to the mainstream sort of establishment liberal types to discredit all his correct views when he makes these kind of wild claims. And he's been all the tech, like there's something sinister going on with it because all the tech billionaires are circling around him. All the like Peter Thiel guys are all on the RFK Jr. thing. The like Max Blumenthal gray zone types are circling around it. Like there's some kind of like very sinister dark money thing going on that's animating a lot of that. And I don't think it's because they want to have like socialism in the United States. You know, all these really kind of nefarious people are circling around it. So that just makes me question what the fuck's going on. And I think for a lot of people, it's just purely a way to kneecap Biden and get a reactionary conservative government in without really openly supporting that. I think that's part of it as well. Yeah, David Sachs and Elon Musk and Steve Bannon and all these guys. So this is what, like, I think it's actually important, like what you're saying, Matt, to have these conversations and actually take a nuanced look at the things that he says and talk about the kernels of truth that are there and talk about the things that we agree with. You know, I'm more than willing to hear him out on a number of these issues, but there's something kind of nefarious going on with it, with all this backing that he's getting. I do think he discredits himself with this complete like incoherence on certain medical issues as well. So, but I think we can have an actual nuanced talk about it and not just do like Mehdi Hassan and just hand wave away every single thing that he says because he also happens to be a wacko on certain things. That's my nuanced Rob TRRS stance on RFK Jr. But the Chinese have like criticized and talked about America developing these kinds of bioweapons. And again, like I was saying, I don't think they make these claims lightly. I don't want to take this idea of this ethnic bioweapon that he's mentioning and say, oh, that's just totally impossible and preposterous. Maybe it is impossible, but they have actually accused America of working on that. And I don't think they would just make that claim if there is no possible way of like backing that up. And again, this is the part. This is the problem that I had with his statement here.
What I worry about is about that, because I see that as sort of the next big fight, because those viruses don't see any borders, and they're relatively cheap to do this gain of function. I mean, it's just so that's what I worry about more than the big hardware.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and we know that the Chinese are developing ethnic bioweapons that are designed to attack people of certain racial types.
And that's the problem, right? I don't doubt that the CIA and America, as he acknowledges, is working on that. But I don't think just that in and of itself is evidence that the Chinese are doing the same thing. Yeah, it's Greta on Newsmax. That's right. That's absolutely right. Let me see. Let me see if I can find some of these claims. Because I actually don't, when I tweeted about this, it wasn't because I don't think that such a thing is a possibility or such a thing hasn't been researched or developed. It's the way that he's conflating China and the U.S. as both in being in some kind of bioweapon arms race, which I don't think we have any actual evidence of. I'm going to stake my claim here and say that there's no bioweapons that can target specific ethnicities. And you're probably right. But that in and of itself doesn't mean that I don't think America is researching or would be interested in discovering whether such a thing was a possibility. I mean, doesn't that sound like something America would at least dump a few billion into checking out? I don't know if that it's possible or that it's a real thing. I don't doubt that the Americans would fucking look into it, though. He's talking about them like they exist. Well, yeah. Well, let's hear one more time what the exact words that he says.
Next big fight, because those viruses don't see any borders, and they're relatively cheap to do this gain of function. I mean, it's just so. That's what I worry about more than the big hardware.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and we know that the Chinese are developing ethnic bioweapons.
I mean, are developing, That to me is like it's being worked on, it's being developed. I don't know, it's kind of splitting hairs. Let's not forget the USA was previously attempting to craft gay bombs. The gay bombs. Oh, darn, I got hit with that gay bomb. Oh, shucks. I'm so mad right now about that. It just sounds like white supremacy made palatable by claiming it's China doing something. Like this is just the evil ethnics want to wipe out the white race. Also, I don't think China would be so stupid as to make a virus that targets white Americans. Yeah, no, it does. That's again, it's why I shared it. It does seem like kind of a yellow peril kind of thing, applying this kind of yellow peril thing or analysis to a very real thing that I don't doubt is being researched by Americans. If you're saying shucks, the bomb hasn't taken effect yet. Yeah, and that's true as well. We know that they're developing these things. I notice he gives no details. He just allows that vague idea to take seed in the gullible viewers' minds and interpret it as they wish. We know that they're developing these things, but he doesn't really specify who we is and how we know that. Darn, I got hit with that gay bomb again, I guess. Ah. Dun 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 dun, gay bomb. See if I can find a YouTube video about this DNA bioweapon. Okay, so here's a wacky video. Okay. I see this video here from 1 year ago with 1 million views on YouTube. China's nightmarish new bioweapon targets race and ethnicity. But there's a brief one from Telesur as well. Let's watch this video from Telesur and see the Telesur spin on it.
Sunday, U.S. Congress Representative Jason Crow, member of the House Intelligence Committee, claimed that his country has made biological weapons that target human DNA. Crow, representative by the state of Colorado and former military serving in Iraq and Afghanistan, clearly said that many of these weapons have already been developed. He recalled that although medical information is private, there are companies that acquire it and sell it. Speaking alongside Pentagon representatives, Crow said that protection of commercial data in the United States has degraded alarmingly in the last 20 years.
Yeah, so to be clear, I think one of the things we're talking about here is that there are now weapons under development and developed that are designed to target specific people. Right, that's what this is, where you can actually take someone's DNA, take their medical profile, and you can target a biological weapon that will kill that person or take them off the battlefield or make them inoperable. So you can't have a discussion about this without talking about privacy and commercial data and the protection of commercial data, because expectations of privacy have degraded over the last 20 years. Young.
So let's see how this filters through the China bad industrial complex.
China's war ambitions, race and ethnicity.
This is from 1 year ago.
Bioweapons. Hear me out.
From 1 year ago.
I am the first person to dispel myths, over-reporting, or just sensationalism in general. I just don't like it. Lots of people get China wrong, both positively and negatively. And I have to say, I've avoided covering this discovery because of just how crazy it actually sounds. But here's the deal. I lived in China for 10 years, and I'm very, very careful about what I cover because I need to fully understand a topic before speaking on it. But recently, I've stumbled across something, and when I read about it,
and I agree that America should be hit with the gay bomb. I agree. I would support that. I would support a full-scale gay bombing of America.
Fact-checked it and came to fully understand it. It turned out to be one of the most disturbing and sinister ambitions I've ever seen from the Chinese government. And now that I do understand it, I think that there's an incredibly important lesson to learn from it. We need to talk about something.
Okay, so a couple. I've never heard of this. Who's Lao Wai? I just wanted to see what what YouTube's spin on this kind of technology was. He's like a China watcher guy. He's an anti-China pickup artist who got kicked out of China, so that's why he doesn't live there anymore. Isn't this guy and the Serpensa guy two racist psychos that live in China and post all kinds of unhinged bullshit? Yeah, well, I guess that's why I wanted to investigate these claims from the kind of like China watcher sphere and the way that they've taken these things, which we know America specifically has worked on, and try to claim is actually being done by the Chinese. I watched their videos for a bit thinking I was learning, but they were teaching how to be racist. There's a big market for this kind of like China watcher content. There's 1 million views on this video. 1 million views on this video from October 8th, 2021. I'd be surprised if both sides weren't researching this at some level. I lived in China for 10 years. This is very spooky. Isn't evidence, however. Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if I can see more about America then. Like, we don't have to watch this whole, like, 15 minutes video from this guy. Fox has been talking about it 10 months ago on Fox.
When it comes to the economy, critics are blasting the Biden administration for refusing to call it like it is. Congresswoman Nicole Maliotakis, moments away, and the White House trying to redefine the word recession. But first, lawmakers are warning Americans that it's now possible for our enemies to target bioweapons down to individual people. How? Your DNA, which many of us seem very comfortable in giving away. Congressional correspondent Chad Pergram is on Capitol Hill now with more. Chad, this was sort of the subject of the latest James Bond film. It proves that we may be actually our own worst enemy.
That's right, John. The enemy may be inside us. That's if American adversaries can weaponize our own DNA and convert it into a bioweapon.
I want China to have my DNA. I'm not concerned.
People will very rapidly spit into a cup and send it into 23andMe and get really interesting data about their background. And guess what? Their DNA is now owned by a private company and can be sold off.
I want China to have my
mask
DNA.
or online, but you cannot hide your genetic code.
I've got nothing
Former
to
CIA
hide.
officer Ron Mark says the Chinese already have files on 80% of all Americans, and it's possible they could use DNA information against us or others, say the Uyghur population in China.
They would be targeting individual minority groups, for instance. And
See, that's amazing too. Taking this thing that we know the U.S. has researched, and then saying like, oh, they might be using it to wipe out this certain Muslim, the Muslim defenders at Fox News. The fucking defender of Muslim humanity at Fox News, who cheered on the global war on terror for 20 straight years, cheered on the torture, cheered on the bombings, the murder, the mass death, the same people cheering when fucking migrants end up drowning, that are fleeing the violence that they caused in the first place. And they're talking about this bioweapons program, which we know the U.S. is deeply implicated in, and saying, oh, China might be doing it to go after their Uyghur population. Most of us were swabbed for COVID. All our DNA is probably already on file. Yeah, probably, yeah. I did one of those 23andMe tests. Who knows what private corporation or state has my shit now? Who knows?
And looking at some form of genetic engineering there, for instance, to decrease the capabilities of population growth, say, for instance, for different groups.
And we've seen that's also a region where we've seen a massive increase in the population that you're saying they're potentially going. This is completely just invented also. They might potentially do this, right? Maybe it's literally just like I'm making this up. There's no actual evidence or thought behind it. It's literally they could possibly use this technology to do this. Again, yeah, this region that's had this unprecedented growth in both the population and quality of life and standard of living for everyone that lives there. It really seems like they're interested in using a bioweapon there.
23andMe did not respond to a request for comment, but its CEO notes that no one is forced to hand over their information.
I've just always felt like you should be entitled to your information and then put it on the individual. Like if you want to share it in your ways, like allow you to share it. 80% of our customers opt into research. It's not even like they have to click out of it. Like they're electing to opt into research.
There are several bills in Congress to beef up American privacy laws, but Ron Mark says the Chinese aren't the only ones exploring this technology.
Yeah, you are,
US is
asshole.
working on it as well. John?
Well, that's a comforting thought. Chad Pergram for us on Capitol Hill. Chad, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page.
No.
This is the only way that I
I'm
know.
not going to do that, Brian. No. I remember what you said about me, Brian, and I didn't appreciate it at all. Brian Kilmeade. Brian Kilmeade. Don't make me laugh. The Epic Times, of course. The Epic Times are, of course, all over this. I love how this doesn't count as foreign interference in our democracy, by the way.
Chinese Communist Party's bio-warfare program. And regardless of whether the COVID virus itself was a part of that program or not, the fact remains
Facts
the Chinese
matter.
Communist
The Epic
Party
Times.
has a large-scale and very viable bio-warfare program in place, of which the Wuhan lab was just a small component. And one of the most shocking things that we know they are developing is a biological weapon that can target and attack the DNA strands specific to certain racial groups.
Like, I'm just taking the fact that Falun Gong, Epic Times, these China watchers, Fox News, the fact that they're all saying this is just evidence to me that America is working on this technology and trying to develop this kind of weapon. Really, that's all that's telling me. All the finger pointing and the accusations, as we find out every single time, winds up being an admission of guilt. You know, just the very fact that this narrative is being promoted is, I think, evidence that the U.S. is engaging in this kind of research.
Now, obviously, that sounds very conspiratorial and something like out of a science fiction movie.
Yes, it does.
But what's truly shocking about it is the fact that it's true. The Chinese Communist Party is indeed developing weapons that target specific race and ethnicity markers, which might all of a sudden make it a bit more clear as to why the Chinese Communist Party has been able to stitch together the largest collection of American DNA profiles in the world.
Wacky. I'm trying to find something like on the actual U.S. involvement in this. Because all the videos out here are all the videos on YouTube are all about China using this technology and developing this technology. I didn't see that Australian 60 Minutes piece, Larry, but you see how that 60 Minutes Australia is like a central cog in the extreme China bad war propaganda machine, right? That's like where they throw out the really wild claims, right? And then maybe it gets filtered through this Western media lens and maybe gets toned down, but that's where the real wild stuff is in Australia. And propagandizing Australians to hate and fear their neighbor and their largest trading partner. Once again, just convincing these people to sacrifice their own security and their own physical security and economic security at the behest of like the U.S. State Department interests, just as they've done in Ukraine and just as they're doing in Taiwan and everywhere, as they did in Western Europe and Germany, screwing over all these places in order to entrench their own hegemony and their own interests. Just gonna get something to beverage here. I gotta go fairly soon. Not. I can stick around a little bit longer, but China bad meets with erasure mythology for sure. Yeah, you can see why that's gonna be a potent mix.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk.
It's a very potent mix. Party 69, thank you for the gifted sub to our friend Larry. Leaping Larry, thank you for that. Party 69, one of the most valued community members. Hang on just one moment. Okay. I can do this. I'm really tired. God. I'm always just so tired. All right, so let's see what else we have here. See what else we can look at. Finish off the day's coverage, the day's commentary.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Definitely down to pay for a napping stream.
Thank you, Cutman. Thank you for the 22 months, Tier 1. Very much appreciated, Cutman. We've entered the nap zone. I mean, seriously, like, it's becoming a problem for me. Like, I used to be able to just regularly do this stream for 4.5 hours. No problem. And now it's like I get to the point where it's like almost 3 hours and I'm like, ugh, ugh. I even did last summer. I did those like a couple of like 6-7 hour streams or longer. And I was able to do it. You have that effect on us too. Okay, very funny, Sean. Yeah, hilarious. Hilarious. No, I didn't have any Red Bull or any energy beverages today. I did have a coffee. But fuck. I feel a little like it's COVID has contributed to it. I don't think I've ever gotten back to like the sort of energy levels that I had prior to getting COVID. I really don't think so. I mean, who knows? There's a number of different factors. I'm out of shape. I'm 40. I have all kinds of other shit going on. I'm just physically, I just don't sleep enough. That's part of it as well. I don't think the COVID helped though either. Oh, you found something cool, Crowd Babes? It's nice ice cold water. You can do one of those live streams on TikTok where you try to. I must admit, I've not seen one of these. Where you try to sleep and people pay money to make noise and wake you up. You get a short nap in and gain a few new sources of income. I have not seen those. I must admit, I have not seen those. That does not sound great to me. That does not sound great. My submarine is lost. I would simply put a navigation system in my submarine. You know, James Cameron, when he was visiting the Titanic, you know, it wasn't on this rinky-dink fucking home ec ass submarine. Okay, so special correspondent Crad Babes has discovered that the SARS was a genetically engineered virus made to target people of Chinese ethnicity, and then it was killing off Chinese Americans, and that they'd plundered the genetic info of Chinese people to make this weapon. That's something else. That is something else. Was just telling Ken there's got to be a chance they end up dying because it's a tube of CEOs and billionaires, and they'll end up hogging the air for themselves, for sure. I pulled myself up by the bootstraps to have this air. As if the U.S. wasn't using bioweapons in Korea. Well, and that's the thing. Like, that's the whole ridiculousness of all these claims about China and everything. Like, it absolutely is things that the U.S. has researched, like, for sure. Or used directly. Here, how about this? Speaking about Korea.
The reports that I found came from me last year, the final piece of the puzzle. Central Intelligence Agency, the US CIA, as part of their celebration of the 60th anniversary of the Korean War, released hundreds of documents that they held previously been classified to the public. I found approximately 24 of them. The kinds of pathogens we're talking about precisely were things like anthrax, plague, the bubonic plague, undulate rabbit fever, acute fever, hemorrhagic diseases of various sorts, cholera, dysentery, smallpox, possibly also used. Fort Detrick, of course, is in the center, was at the center and still is, of U.S. biological warfare research. And back in the early 1950s, they worked closely with the CIA as well. There was something called the Special Operations Division within Fort Detrick that worked on making a biological weapon 2 to 3 weeks after the first public accusations of germ warfare, utilizing methods similar to Unit 731. The man who interviewed
the stand is about.
Other members of 731 was found dead in his hotel room in downtown. High-ranking people like Colonel Schwabel and Colonel Andrew Evans. They mentioned that, how important it was to keep security around this issue. If anyone broke security on it, they would report them. How even some of the pilots didn't know.
I could mix the mysterious music a bit. I would mix it down a little bit. It is way too loud. Yeah, not great production on this one.
What they were flying. We have above a preponderance of the evidence now showing that the United States engaged in biological warfare campaign. But I think we need is an international commission. And then
it's so low.
And the only way to
tune down the mysteriousness.
Global diplomacy, not saber rattling, would be by settling the issue of past crimes.
Well, this seems interesting. This film is a Chinese propaganda piece accusing the U.S. of using bacteriological warfare in the Korean War. This film has an English soundtrack. So I think it's from 1952. This is a piece of Chinese propaganda from 1952 about this very subject, which I think makes it all the more interesting, the way that we're accusing China of doing this right now, when they have long known that America has engaged in this kind of bioweapon research and like bio warfare. No, since of course the Unit 731, I mean, just in the exact same way that Operation Paperclip created the space program that there was the exact same process took place with these fucking monsters from Unit 731 in Japan, bringing them to America to kickstart their bioweapons program. I don't think that even is a wacky conspiracy. I think that's just like something that happened. Which the Chinese have been accusing America of since the 50s, correctly. The U.S. crime of bacteriological warfare. The evidence. They got the receipts. They've had the receipts long ago. And look at this. Today, to this day, 80 years later, we're accusing them. How they're working on these bioweapons. China's working on these very scary bioweapons. That's what we're doing now. And RFK Jr. is contributing to it. Who are the real...
The American aggressors in their criminal germ
Who has
war
really been
are
doing the
employing
research into
various methods for the
bioweaponry, though?
suppression of deadly poisons. They use aircraft to spray germs, artillery to fire germ shells, and aircraft to drop all types of germ bombs. This is a germ bomb. On exploding, it opens out on a hinge. The main portion has 4 separate compartments. In Korea and Northeast China,
This shit country was founded. For sure, exactly. It was founded in part on biological warfare. Absolutely. Absolutely. Canada and the U.S. Intentional biological warfare. It gets framed sometimes as being some kind of big mistake. Like, oh, whoops, we accidentally infected these indigenous populations with these horrific diseases. It was absolutely intentional. And for many, and there's a whole story about not inoculating people from diseases that we could have inoculated them, and we did not. Yeah, so all these years later, we're here accusing China of developing these bioweapons.
Of insects
I
were
think
found
that's
around
pretty
these
interesting.
bombs. In their shameless denial of their use of bacteriological weapons, the American aggressors have said that these are leaflet bombs. But according to an Associated Press report dated March the 5th, Chairman Sykes of the House Appropriations Committee, after hearing the testimony of Major General E.F. Boudin, Chief of the Chemical Corps of the United States Army, declared publicly to the press that means to spread germs in enemy territory is simple, and that the United States Army has a plentiful supply of equipment for the purpose, such as leaflet bombs now being used. This is tantamount to saying that Boudin has admitted the use of 4-compartment propaganda leaflet bombs for spreading germ-laden
Yeah, the
insects.
opium wars
Alan
as well.
Whittington,
Good point. Yeah,
correspondent of the British
absolutely.
Legislative Worker, is examining a 4-compartment bomb. He is compiling a record of the crimes of the American aggressors.
It is kind of like a Chinese meets mid-Atlantic accent. It's satisfying to listen to.
For the information of the peoples of the whole world. This is another type of germ bomb, fitted with a parachute.
There's a book out of Fernwood called Country of Poxes about the germ warfare on the indigenous populations of North America. Yeah. It's really interesting the way that we're accusing all these other nations of engaging in this kind of research, in this kind of biowarfare, especially given this context. Always an admission. Always. Each and every time. So China has literally been investigating whether people have been attacking them with genetically modified ethnic targeting viruses. They concluded it was practically impossible to make a virus that targets like that, and that it would be easily traceable if it had been modified. Kind of implies they're not doing it.
The American aggressors, in order to hide their crime, labeled these bombs flares. Actually, the shells of these bombs are very heavy, and their parachutes are particularly small, much smaller than those used for flares. Not only can these germ bombs not remain in the air long, but the inner surface of the paper containers did not show any evidence of burning. This proves that these
That's a
are
good
not
point
flares.
also, Diego.
Another kind of insect bomb is made of plastic with a light metal screw cap. These are 2 fragments of the bomb after exploding. Epidemic prevention workers bring different kinds of animals and articles dropped by American aircraft to the Chinese volunteers' epidemic prevention field unit. This is the specimens receiving room. Disinfection is carried out to ensure the safety of workers. Specimens containers are disinfected.
One sec, folks.
This is Professor Wei Xi, head of the Department of Bacteriology at Dairen Medical College. He served in Burma and was awarded a military decoration by the Americans. Filled with disgust at what he saw of the American bacteriological warfare, he turned his award over for disposal to the Chinese People's Committee for World Peace and Against American Aggression. The American aggressors, besides spreading insects in Korea, have also scattered all kinds of animals and articles such as rats, dead fish, poisonous snakes, dead birds, dead rabbits, medicinal powder and drug tablets, rotting beef, chewing gum, stockings, tree branches and leaves, bean stalks, cooked rice and millet. The American aggressors scattered disease-carrying insects and other infected objects over a wide area in Korea, covering some 70 districts and municipalities. They aim at the indiscriminate slaughter of the Korean people and the Korean and Chinese forces. Here are some samples of what they dropped: medicinal powder and drug tablets, infected dead fish, a dead catfish, poisonous snakes, a dead pheasant, a dead rabbit, cooked rice, and cooked millet. The volunteer laboratory unit at work in Korea. A member of the unit brings specimens of various insects scattered by United States planes. The specimens are disinfected for handling. After disinfection, the specimens are taken to the receiving desk. An assistant removes the insects from the original receptacle, places them in 2 separate vials, and hands them over to another assistant. The assistant labels and registers the 2 vials, putting them into 2 separate racks, one to be sent to the bacteriological laboratory, one for identification and preservation. Professor He Qi, entomologist and head of the Department of Biology of the Dairen Medical College, examines the specimens.
This is cartoon villain shit.
Professor He consults references for identification of the insects.
And I believe it.
An assistant mounts the specimens on glass slides, while another examines them under the microscope.
We're sadistic peoples. I absolutely believe it.
Specimens mounted on glass slides.
Like we've been pointing out. There's a direct... This is not just some, like, wacky conspiracy. There's a direct through line between the foundation of Canada and America all the way to this, all the way to today. Using this kind of biological warfare to control and to eliminate populations that we don't like. You tankies, I'll just say America bad. That's right. And I mean, we talk about the Unit 731 in Japan, which was obviously fucking horrific, but all the very things that they were doing, Canada and America was doing to indigenous peoples as well. This kind of human experimentation and all the most horrific things that Unit 731 is responsible for, or the Nazis were responsible for, we were doing to indigenous people prior to that. You know, we were doing it to indigenous people. We were doing it we were engaging in this kind of behavior in Africa and the rest of the colonized world. We basically wrote the book on it that the Nazis and the Japanese used during that World War II period. And then after the war, we imported all the exact same scientists to continue the exact same practice. The beginning of Bong Joon-ho's excellent kaiju movie about, The Host, right? About American imperialism in Korea starts with the U.S. Army doctor carelessly dumping formaldehyde into Korean reservoirs, which is based on a real life thing that happened in the 2000s. I mean, it's funny how, like, you know, when we talk about capitalism versus socialism, whatever, oh, you want to see the real example of capitalism versus socialism, and they show that map of like DPRK and South Korea with the lights or whatever, which we know is bullshit to begin with. But just the idea that gets propagated through these kinds of things, or talking about K-pop or whatever, talking about like some of the economic growth that has happened in South Korea, the big corporations or whatever, some of the big cities. But like, look at like these films that are coming out of South Korea. Look at like Squid Game and The Host and Parasite. Does that really seem like a society where capitalism is really like working for most people? Is it really this like capitalist paradise that we've been like pretending that it is, and then holding it up to the example of the brutal, authoritarian, poverty-stricken hellhole or dystopian hellhole or whatever that we say DPRK is? And like, look at what people in South Korea are like, the kind of thing that they're making, the kind of art that they're making now. This does not seem like a society where capitalism is really doing its job of delivering high living standards to people. Yeah, it's like a Samsung monarchy. Absolutely. Yeah, it does seem fucked. I don't even remember Weena said that the actual debunking of the picture. I just think in and of itself it's bullshit. I mean, I just think it's completely fake. I mean, you can look at pictures of like Pyongyang at night and like there's lights. You know. As Sai correctly said, it should never apologize for fuck off and die Yankee pigs. Yeah, and then we're surprised when South Koreans like hate America. Whoa, this guy is Sai. You think he's this harmless guy with a fun pop single on right now, but like, you know, he doesn't like Americans. He doesn't like Americans. It's like, yeah, no fucking shit. There's like a 6-block U.S. military base right in the capital city of South Korea, where American military members are like committing crimes and assaults and sexual crimes and skating away completely with zero consequences every day. This country where, again, they killed 3 million people in living memory, like not like in ancient history, but in living memory. Oh, I just can't believe it. This guy doesn't like Americans. Can you believe this? Is it like Iran or any other country? These Iranians were shouting death to America. Unbelievable. Can you believe that they hate America? Yeah, I can believe it. Yes. Yes, I can believe why people in Korea hate America. Yes, I can believe why people in Iran and Iraq hate America. Yes, I can believe why people in Indonesia and Vietnam hate America. Yes, I can believe why people in Latin America and Chile and Cuba and Haiti and all over the developing world hate America. Yes, I can understand that. Yes. Why don't you hate America is the real question, exactly. Okay, let's keep up with a few more minutes of this. I don't know if I can do the whole thing, but it's really interesting seeing this old propaganda, though.
A human flea under the microscope. This flea is capable of transmitting plague. An assistant mounts disinfected anthomae flies and sunflies. These flies have been proved to carry typhoid and dysentery bacilli. Specimens mounted on pins are preserved in boxes, others are kept in glass bottles. Rickettsia are microorganisms larger than viruses. For example, the causative organism of typhus fever is the Rickettsia. Dr. Liu Wei-tung, Rickettsia specialist and research fellow at the Academy of Medical Sciences, is staining smears on glass slides by the Machiavello method, which is a special stain for Rickettsia. Dr. Kuo Chengzhou, research fellow of the Academy of Medical Sciences, is investigating pieces of the lung of a dead bird dropped by the United States Air Force. This is a centrifuge for separating the cellular debris from the fluid. Dr. Kuo injects the filtrate into a white mouse. Laboratory workers in a general bacteriological laboratory at work. A member of the field laboratory unit brings in specimens. A lizard-like specimen is dissected. The technician takes some material from the specimen with a platinum loop for culture. Later, the technician takes out petri dishes from the incubator. According to the type of bacterial growth, he distributes them to different laboratories for further investigation. From these culture tubes, comma-shaped bacteria are discovered. With a platinum loop, these bacteria are transferred onto a glass slide, fixed and stained. The staining method used here is gram stain. Chief technician Qi Changtai examines the stain smear under the microscope. These are the comma-shaped bacilli as they appear under the microscope. A second culture is made. The culture tube is then put into an incubator. With immune serum, an agglutination test on a slide is then performed. The result is observed with a magnifying glass. With immune serum, Mr. Chi performed an agglutination test in a series of tubes. From the general laboratory, a batch of bacterial cultures on endomedia is brought in. On these media, there are different kinds of bacterial growth. Professor Xie Zhimu, bacteriologist and research fellow of the Academy of Medical Sciences, examines these bacterial colonies. His assistant selects certain colonies for further investigation. After seeding the culture tubes with different bacteria, the assistant puts them into an incubator. After a period of incubation, he examines the culture tubes taken from the incubator. With a platinum loop, an assistant makes a smear of the bacterial growth for gram stain.
Let's skip ahead to this part. U.S. aggressors spread various species of germ-laden insects and germ-laden substances in China.
The United States aggressors have extended their bacteriological warfare into the territory of the People's Republic of China. False ground beetles, anthomiid flies, wolf spiders, springtails,
Yeah, this is a Chinese propaganda film from the 50s. This is what they were accusing the U.S. of doing in the 50s in the Korean War.
Teams in large numbers head for the anti-bacteriological war front. Members of epidemic
I'm sorry,
prevention
Sinchal, is
teams
this giving you the
take
ick?
preventive measures in the area
It's almost
where
over.
germs have been dropped by American aircraft. Prevention workers carry out disinfection and exterminate lethal insects with chemical solutions. These lethal insects are completely annihilated after a concentrated attack by the epidemic prevention teams. Full of anger and resolution, the Chinese people are determined to defeat germ warfare.
I did no such thing,
for
James.
investigating the American crime of bacteriological warfare.
I know what you're referring to, but I did not cover the monkey torture story on this show. I believe it was TrueAnon that was tweeting about that, but it's truly a horrific story, though. Yes.
An on-the-spot investigation in northeast China.
That's not true, Dummy Dorco. No. Yeah, it's just too bleak to even talk about. Don't look into it. Don't talk about it. Forget we said anything.
Besides spreading germ-laden insects, the United States aggressors also dropped other kinds of poisonous substances. Here are a dead pheasant and a dead sparrow.
Thanks a lot, James.
This dog.
It was a huge effort for PRC putting together this documentation back in the day, naively thinking the world would take them seriously if they were really good at receipts, for sure. It just got framed as evil Chinese brainwashing.
And this pig died after being infected with disease. These feathers were dropped by American aircraft over Andong County, northeast China. Feathers were also found on the roof of a hut at Beijing district, Andong County. They were dropped by the American planes on March the 11th. Large numbers of flies dropped by United States aircraft were found on the window of this ordinary household in northeast China.
Sickos.
Various species of insects collected from different places in
Sick
northeast
country.
China. These insects
And again,
carry
dude,
large
America
numbers
would
of
never
bacteria.
do this. This is just wacky propaganda. America would never do this. America literally, that it was founded on biological warfare. It's a central part of the settling of this continent and the colonization of this land was biological warfare. So no one should look at this and be like, this is just China saying all this kind of wacky conspiratorial nonsense. There's a documented historical basis for any of these kinds of accusations. That was absolutely nightmarish stuff. I should go soon, folks. I should go soon. I gotta pick up my kids soon. One final time, though, I will mention that if you do enjoy TRRS, if you enjoy this kind of discourse, this kind of commentary, the discussions we have here, the interviews, the coverage, the analysis, the fun conversations that we have. This one was not so much one of them, but interesting and enlightening at the same time. If you enjoy all that stuff, if you enjoy being part of the community, if you want to help support this content and keep the show on the air, please, if you can, subscribe to TRRS. It costs $5 per month to subscribe, totally free of charge with an Amazon Prime account, which you can easily convert to a Twitch Prime sub. Every little bit helps. Every subscription, every gifted sub, every bit of extreme generosity that I am shown by folks in this community is very, very helpful, and it's much appreciated. And it's the only way that I'm able to continue to do this show. It's not like there's anyone in Canada, like in the mainstream media, that's really banging down my door, even though I have the ability to do this stuff and I got a large platform and I can do this kind of hosting and commentary. It's not like there's any mainstream media organizations that are knocking down my door to try and hire me to talk about these things, because we don't like to talk about, our genocidal history in this country. We don't like to,
You've
try
just become
to
an elite member of the Friendship
try
Triangle.
to take this stance and show this other perspective and trying to show the perspective of DPRK and China and these other countries that are the victims of this kind of relentless propaganda and hostility. G. Cluppy, thank you very, very much. Thank you very, very much, G. Cluppy. Truly one of the very elite members of the Friendship Triangle community. G. Cluppy, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. I really do appreciate it. And gifting 5 subs to someone that you can't stand and where you don't like the show or the community, that really takes a lot of dedication. And I appreciate it. You know? I don't even like subscribing to and paying for things that I like, so I can imagine subscribing to things that you don't like is like, even that's just why. That's just nuts. You know? But thank you very much, G. Cluppy. And are there any other kind and generous chatters that would like to support TRRS? Is there anyone else out there? Is there anyone else out there brave enough to support TRRS and support the community? Okay, hold on. And I lost my...
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
This is a different one. What about this? I will thank whoever subbed in just a moment, I promise. Anybody else? Jeremiah on Twitch, thank you for the gifted sub. Thank you, Jeremiah. This is so loud. Any other takers? Again, this is the only place where you can get this kind of content. I've been talking about US bioweapons and our legacy of human destruction and bioweapons research and horrors, and then following up with this. Followed by this kind of gentle swaying, only available here. Can someone just bail? I just need one person to bail me out here, and then I can stop doing this, and we can all just go home. Pathogen, thank you. Thank you, Pathogen. I can't shuffle anymore. I'm just too tired for this. I'm too tired. Oh, Pathogen gift for the three gifted subs from Pathogen. Thanks, Pathogen. Thank you for that. Very kind of you. The sudden cut. Yeah, I can't at least play the song out. Oh, fucking fine. Someone else better subscribe though. If I'm gonna keep swaying for another 90 seconds or whatever it is. It stopped. Can't even play it anymore.
You
I'm
can count
40.
on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
40 years old over here.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Weird off time there. Moist Owlets, thank you for the gifted sub. And thank you, Vlad the Victor, as well, for the gifted sub. Very kind of
You
both
can count
of you.
on me. You're gonna have good
oh
old
my goodness,
Rob
Nace
to
Zero.
talk you through all this.
Nace Zero, thank you for the 3 gifted subs. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nace Zero. You know, sometimes I feel you might have a hard time believing that I feel a mild sense of shame or embarrassment or humiliation when I'm sitting here and playing the MIDI version of Caribbean Queen and dancing so that strangers on the internet give me $5. You might think that I feel a small sense of shame or embarrassment in that, but then the community comes through and totally redeems yourself. It makes the whole thing worthwhile. I didn't think that, but now I do, yeah. So this is a good comment too. What was it? Dummy Dorcas said, I'm infected with a disease called being a cool guy. You can get sick too if you sub to the Rob Rousseau television program. Hell yeah. That's absolutely right. It is a job. I mean, there's no getting around that pathogen. It's definitely hard work. I would like to have like a corporation pay me an actual salary. You know, that would be my ideal version, because I really do, Pathogen and everyone in the chat, love doing this. I really do love doing this every day. I would just love to be able to get paid a salary and then not have to rely on you to do it. I would just like you to be able to come in and hang out and watch and just chat and we can all hang out together. Ideally, I would like that, so you didn't have to also fund the program, but that's just how this platform works, doesn't it? Until I get that kick money. I'm going to go to pure gambling mode. I'm going to get the kick money, go pure gambling style on here. I have the site for you, good sir. It is really, I must admit that it is really close to the sub goal now. I mean, the ideal would be state-sponsored media and a universal basic income. Yeah. Yeah, or I could have a job with state media and just have also, in addition to your job, you have a fucking basic housing and healthcare and education and all these things met. It is really close to getting to the sub goal. Like that's just 3 subs away. Like that's so close. You know, like in theory, the Rob Rousseau show on Rebel News. I'm having a hard time talking today. In theory, a lone brave hero could come through and be the heroic legend, an elite
You can count
tier
on me.
member.
You're gonna
Oh
have
my
good old
goodness.
Rob to talk you through all this.
Oh my. Kafrika, thank you so much for the 3 gifted subs. I really, really, really appreciate that. The hero emerges. Kafrika, who were you before this account? Do you want to keep that to yourself? Are you going to play that close to the chest? Jamaican Patty. Okay, I see. Did you get banned? What happened? Kafrika, but I really appreciate the support. Thank you for that. Well, that's going to do it for today. That's going to do it. Kafrika is good, but smoked Kafrika is great. That's right. I agree. I agree with that. Great work, Triangle. We did it. Thank you, folks. Thank you for watching the show today. I appreciate it a lot. I'll be back tomorrow, all right? Enjoy McDonald's with your son. It is McDonald's Wednesday. I had forgotten about that. I totally forgot that it's McDonald's Wednesday. I don't even know what the hell's going on. I'll be back tomorrow too. Good. Well, sad we can't get the Grimace Shake here. Yeah, I don't know if I want the Grimace Shake, but I would like to try it though. Enjoy the rest of your birthday. Thank you, Squatch. Well, it's been a great birthday. It's been a great birthday hanging out with you fine folks. Grimace, fellow member of the Gemini Squad. That's right. Tomorrow is Smørrebrød Thursday here, where the local grocery store makes cheap and really good smørrebrød. Sounds wonderful. Diego. Is the implication that it's Grimace's body in the cup or Grimace's cum? Well, I don't know if I've really given that much thought to it. Okay, it's cum. It's Grimace's cum. We're all adults here. We're all adults here. Let's just say the thing that we all know to be true. Let's just get all our cards on the table. Wait, am I still raiding? I don't even see the raid countdown. Let's all be mature about drinking Grimace's cum. Thank you. Went to 0 and nothing happened. Good. What the hell's going on? Was some people raided? Okay. I just came back. Okay. Well, I don't know what's going on. Some of us rated and some of us didn't. But take care. Goodbye, folks. See you tomorrow.